still none of my friends have left me yet. I'm the same man I was since the age of 13, and I've lived my life with no regrets. If you're looking for some freedom, all it takes is 10 drinks minimum. If you're looking for rhyme or reason, all it takes is 10 drinks minimum.
Okay, we're back again for a second try at that. We got Billy here in the studio, and I'm way down for some. There we go. And yeah, we're back.
We're back. I did see you on your computer for like hours last night.
Me?
Yes. What were you doing?
On my computer for hours last night?
No, you were sitting on that couch. I walk out. I would get a drink of water, and you're sitting there. Just like,
I was. We don't even want to fucking bring this up till here. We'll bring it in a second. So Holly Ann is here.
Hello.
And we have former mayoral candidate Gus Pedrotty with us.
future president of the United States.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but thanks, friends.
So there's a reason why I was working on my computer, and now I could say it because like there was our friend Barney. It was his birthday last night.
Happy birthday, Barney.
Yeah, and he had a event at Launchpad that was Tony Hawk Pro Skater. The soundtrack, like bands were playing it, and then they had the game up there, so I was practicing.
You
So
practiced?
You had like the emulator.
I did. I had the emulator going.
And to be noted, Chris kept on trying to get us to play Pro Skater 1 when Pro Skater 3 was available on the emulator, and he was so scared about losing that he refused to switch to 3.
That is not fair. That is not true. I will play anyway, anywhere, any play. I'll play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3.
And the thing is, I think the like Mortal Kombat 2 isn't Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2
I'd say
standard.
2 or 3.
Okay.
Three brought in the revert, 2 brought in the manual, and both of those were were the game changers.
Definite game changers. I mean, being able to link tricks like that, and also, I mean, like, the map selection in 3 is very important to me. I think Foundry is iconic.
That's pretty funny.
I don't know what that is.
I'm
Foundry?
lost.
And
called
I
a
guess
Foundry.
I'm proven wrong.
Yeah.
It's that simple, folks.
So I didn't give you a beer yet. We usually give people a beer by now because I have our beer from Dialogue Brewing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, they said Tony Hawk Skater 1 warehouse level. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's like the training park, though.
Will you do this? Will you pour those?
Yeah, okay, so there's an age gap between you and I, Gus.
That's
we'll
true.
say it's like more than a decade. So when Tony Pro Skater, when I was involved in the game itself, I'm looking
in the scene.
in the scene, especially it was like in 2002, 2003, which would have put you about what, 10 years old, 11.
Would you hate me if I said younger?
Oh wow! Okay, yes, I would not hate you.
Oh
but
yeah,
I
we
would
hate
hate
you for your lack of being born sooner, you loser.
And you gotta think like, okay, so I grown up on different style of gaming. It didn't involve like an analog stick. It involved 2 buttons.
Yeah.
And like you in your formative years were like, oh, okay, like I'm like learning how to play fucking video games. Like one of the hardest things to do, to be good at Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Like we're talking like 6, 7.
Yeah, wow. It was probably around then, 8 years old, wrecking it on an N64 joystick. That was me.
Okay.
So honestly, last night we were playing on PlayStation 1s, and it was very surprising to not have a joystick for me, because I was a Nintendo kid growing up.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when you say Nintendo kid, you meant at the earliest maybe. Well, no, so I'm sorry. It's N64.
N64 was the first console I ever owned. Yeah.
And when Chris and I talk about Nintendo, we're talking about the
original
the
NES.
NES, yeah.
Sure.
Nintendo Entertainment System.
No acronyms here. We're all about inclusivity.
There's little known knowledge. It's like after the Atari and the ColecoVision failed, the big box stores in America didn't want a video game system. So that's why it's not called Nintendo Video Game System. It's called Nintendo Entertainment System because it was sold as a computer for them. And that's actually, if you ever see the Rob robot that came with the original, that's why they packed that in there. They're like, see, it's an educational computer. So they could get it over here and in the stores.
Fun story. I was afraid of that robot.
Rob?
I was terrified of him.
He's gonna put his gyroscopes on you. She's all, not on my boobs, Rob.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's tight. Again, I just want to
That's
bring
my-
the
that's
age
what I'm
gap
doing.
into the conversation because I didn't no clue how old you are. I'm guessing it's still in your 20s.
True.
Or still in your teens,
True.
most likely.
Yeah, that one's actually it. I turned 12 and a half last month. Pretty excited for the future.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, so you're 22 years old, you're going to UNM, and the art apocalypse is about to happen, and the crime is rampant, and young Gus Pedrotty's like, I'm going to run for mayor. Is that how it happened?
Is that how it happened?
Yeah, no. Almost the opposite. I'm not. I wasn't like a poli-sci kid. I wasn't somebody who was like volunteering for campaigns. I didn't come from a political family. I studied chemistry and psychology, and I really still like science. I worked for like the TLDR of this to not waste too much time. I worked for this healthcare initiative in town called Project Echo, and that was super inspiring to me because I grew up in this cohort that kind of had this New Mexicant attitude, right? Everyone hears about the brain drain.
Oh, that is amazing. I love that. New Mexicant.
Right. And and I really felt that, and like I thought I was gonna go off to school somewhere else, and there's a whole story there too. But what changed my whole perspective of this place was this thing called Project Echo.
Oh, okay.
And I got to work with some phenomenal healthcare providers, physician's assistants, community care workers, nurses, who were trying to change how we delivered care to hepatitis C, stemming from the heroin and opioid epidemic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was all about delivering care to where people are. What a revolutionary concept. Instead of people being like, I'm dying, is there a service around me? It was like,
Right.
what if we just know who people are and offer them what they need?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
mind-blowing.
awesome.
Like you just walk up and, like, while they're sleeping, slide it over to them and then run away.
Exactly. You're like, presents, and then you run. You bolt, and that's part of it.
Nice.
But it's supposed to like diminish how much people are using hospitals, right, which saves everyone money, but also provide more nuanced care to different populations. And when I saw this model in place, and this model is now being implemented all over the world, in the next 3 years, it'll touch 1 billion lives.
What?
So
Wow.
a seventh of the world's population is going to benefit from a healthcare problem or a solution that started here because of a problem we had. And
Wow.
that blew up the New Mexicant attitude. It's like, holy shit, we can solve problems that we're having, and the rest of the world needs those solutions too. And we have unique answers to those things. And so I looked at that model and I said, what if we can apply the same distributed care network towards things like behavioral health? So we can make sure that police don't have to interact with those things and expose
Right.
people to potentially violent situations, and also diminish the cost to the city of caring for people in our community.
Yeah.
That's a long answer, and I apologize for that.
That's okay.
No, that's
I
good.
assumed that you're primed for those.
Sure, I mean, it's hard for me to not
Yeah.
give this one a legitimate answer, right? Hope to give only legit answers.
Y'all, why'd you run for mayor? 'Cause shit's lit, bro.
Pour some out for the homies.
Yeah.
By that I mean into my mouth. But we
would accept it. It would have been so lit if I was mayor.
Oh, yeah.
could you imagine? We'd have so many ice rinks.
And they're saying in the chat the airport in 3 was a game changer. We're still talking about
That's
20.
legit, honestly.
That is legit.
When you get to break glass in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, you feel so badass. So
Yeah.
shouts out. But from there, we had this plan, and then the big question was: when you're a community member and you have an idea, how the hell do you get it done?
Right.
Like, honestly, we're all in this together. We all have ideas. We all have different experiences, and we should all be able to participate. And we were like, well, if it's about policing and healthcare and distributed networks, we probably shouldn't go to the school board. Probably
Fair.
shouldn't talk to the county commission because APD is a city department.
Right.
Okay.
Like, probably shouldn't talk to the public regulations committee or commission because they do like energy stuff and resources. And so then we're like, in the city thing, should we talk to the council? But the council's this distributed body that doesn't really have, it would be very hard for us as a community member to convince the entire city council to make this massive change. And so we're like, I think this goes to the executive branch of our government locally. And so we shopped it around. We took this idea to people we heard were running. And we were like, hey, we think this is really nifty and could be really beneficial. And we heard people say, like, this is a good idea. This is well sourced in the budget, and we like it. We're like, sick. Will you run with it?
No.
And that's what we heard every
Oh
time.
my gosh.
And we heard the dumbest reasons, like, I don't have $1 million. That's hard to explain. I'm not sure if people will understand it.
What?
And then we got so mad
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that
'cause
we
what?
did it. And it felt like an obligation to say, like, and it wasn't just like we didn't run to share this idea. We ran to win, so we could do this idea and all the other things that you get to do in a city for 4 years when you have those opportunities. And that's how I ran for mayor.
Wow.
Wow.
Question mark.
So, well, a lot of people don't know you got over like 6,000 votes.
Yeah.
That's a
yeah.
pretty good chunk, actually.
That's a lot of people. Thanks to all those people.
I didn't think you'd do that.
Yeah. I don't think anyone expected that.
Right?
Everyone who like chose to vote for a candidacy like the one that we ran, just like real shout out to them for being so incredibly brave. And it was about halfway through the campaign when I realized how brave people needed to be to vote for me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate those people greatly. It means more than
Billy
they know.
was like, he was always talking about you.
Yeah.
Well,
I voted for you.
Wow, thanks.
Well, I have to tell you why I voted for you.
Okay.
Because we were talking earlier about how I had met you once. It's a very positive story. All right. So I used to bartend at Press Club.
Rad.
And you did an event at Press Club. And Brian Colon was there. Tim Keller was there. Everybody was there. First of all, you're the only one that tipped me.
Oh.
And I have never said that publicly, ever. You are the only candidate that bothered to tip me. And, yeah, that's right. I'm saying it now.
Oh, Holly.
And I also enjoyed that you stayed after everybody else left, and you were willing to talk to people about your ideas, and I thought your ideas were great.
Thanks, Holly.
So it was not just the tipping thing, but it did make me kind of go, wait a second.
That says a lot about you, though.
It does, because I kind of felt like the other candidates, and I'm not saying anything about their character. I think, they're in a situation where they're having to speak to people, and I think probably they're like, oh, I'm sure, she's getting compensated very well, or maybe they just didn't even think about it. I'm not saying that they were being, jerks. I'm not 100% sure that that's why. But the fact that, like, you took the time to even ask how my day was and interact with me and interact with the people who were there, it was great. And then I got to look into what you were running with, and that's, I liked your ideas.
Thanks, Holly.
So the question
No,
everyone
thank
is
you.
asking, what are the political groupies like?
What?
That was
Yeah.
not my question.
Okay.
Someone actually asked me to ask you that.
So, easy answer, non-existent. It's a city election, folks. Like, no one ever thought the city was sexy. Like, most people are like, oh, are you that guy? And I'm like, which one? And they're like, the kid from Love Actually? And I'm like, no, that's not me. And they're like, oh, so you weren't in Game of Thrones? And I'm like, no. And they're like, where do I know you from?
I've
I'm
seen
like,
you
"Probably
somewhere.
Marvel."
I've seen
Yeah.
you somewhere. Oh yeah, my grandma watches you on the news.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one I've heard, though. It's like, I think my grandma told me about you. And I'm
Oh,
like,
no.
city's important,
no.
folks. Here's to the young
civics.
people.
Pay
Civics.
attention.
Civics are sexy.
Well,
Everyone.
and I think that was another reason I kind of wanted you to win, was you had a great platform and you had great ideas, but also I was like, holy shit, if a 22-year-old gets elected, young people are going to realize that their voice and their opinion matters, and
Yeah.
maybe they will go vote.
Sure.
the 30 Rock memes would have been through the roof though.
Through the roof.
Hell yeah.
Was it Ice Town, Ice Clown?
Right.
No, you're talking Parks and Rec.
Yeah, that's Parks and Rec.
sorry,
but
Parks
Chris,
and
we
Rec.
won't hold it against you.
Sorry, Parks and Rec.
In our first video we released, we actually we had this board of all of our ideas, and we wrote Ice Town and crossed it out because we knew that was what we were gonna get. You just got to put Easter eggs in videos. That's
awesome.
That's the memes young kids are into these days.
Yes, yes. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was weird.
So, I spoke with you, and you said that you were not going to run again. Why not?
That's true.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's not like I know the rest of my life and have some crystal ball, and I'm like, I will never run again. But I think about all the ways that it's important to differentiate what the future of politics is, because we know it can't be what it is.
Right.
And there are all sorts of confounding variables that make politics so shitty right now.
Yeah.
It's money, it's careers, it's power, it's sometimes just an inability to do what the hell government should be doing for no explicit reason. It's shitty people in office. And one of the things that I started noticing was that, like, you know, you run for office, everyone's like, oh, you just have to run. You just got to get name recognition. Like, you got to run. You got to lose one to win one.
Yep.
And I'm like, no. Like, literally, no.
Yeah.
Right.
I had ideas for a certain thing at a certain time, and I went for the office that allowed me to execute those ideas. And that's what any community member should do.
Right, that's
and
good.
Communities should be able to see that, hear that, and elect that with confidence. Because it's the institution that's strong, and it's how we decide to guide the next X amount of years, depending on the office, that elections are for. And campaigns should be a community discourse, not an identity, like, you know, circle jerk kind of.
Yeah.
Which is honestly what they are.
Yeah.
And for me, I see a lot of people who just run again because they can. And I don't mean to, like, fault them explicitly, and that's not a personal attack, but it is a structural thing. Because you have this weird infrastructure that doesn't do you any good anywhere else in the world. And you don't collect the infrastructure in your daily life. Like, when you meet somebody, you're not like, hey, like, by the way, can I get your email and your phone number and, like, hit you up on a newsletter that I apparently write as a casual human? Because maybe one day, like, no, like, the things that it takes to run a campaign aren't how we interact with each other.
No.
It's totally artificial. And I have no interest angling for office, perpetuating that idea that just because because I did run and I could run again, that I should. And I'm more interested in community members running, because that's how we're going to get whatever the hell it is that we collectively want.
Right.
So, I mean, I hope everyone who runs 10 drink minimum runs.
Oh man.
Oh.
I feel like Billy and I could probably act out, like, whenever you said you weren't going to run again. Like, I was the guy that came in and I'm like, Gus, we need you. You got to come out of retirement.
It's like, don't you get it? I'm out of the game. It's like, I'll do it, but I need my crew together. And he'll go around Albuquerque, go into, like, a little body shop, and the guy is like, we need you. And it's and you go,
They see you and then there's lies light up and you're all, come on.
And also a question. Say, like, you did get some traction. Say, like, there's a viral video, like, gets shit ton of votes.
Yeah.
And say you did win these things. Say Chris and I walk into, like, an office with you, or, like, it's like, hey, Gus, come, you know, just come hang out, and we hand you, like, an envelope
Across the table. What's in the
of like
envelope?
$100,000
We're
check.
like, we need this podcast initiative to go through.
You would be like, well, I guess that's just how the game works.
Oh no. But he's not like that.
I know he's not.
This is a weird... I mean, I'm not like that. And the craziest thing about campaigns is that because I didn't get on TV or be some of those places that people expect you to hear political campaigns from is proof. Like, I got offered sums of money, like softball. No one was like, here's the check, sign it. But that wouldn't have changed my mind. But they were like, drop out of this race now, and we can raise you X amount of dollars for whatever you pick next.
What?
And I was
Really?
just like,
Oh my God!
like,
See, that was what I was gonna ask.
yeah, like, it's real. And it's super unpopular to say, and it's easy to criticize things that are far away from us, right? Like, we can all look at, like, the National Democratic
Oh, of
Party and
course,
be like,
yeah.
things are not right there.
Right.
But to say it in your own backyard with people you know and care about, and just because there are things that aren't great doesn't mean you have to stop caring for people. It's a lot harder, and there's a lot more risk there, and that's the difficulty of speaking truth to power. But yeah, like, those offers were made.
So there was. I was gonna.
Wow.
Well, my question would be like, how much of the darkness did you see running for office? Was that the darkest thing, or was there just some shit that, like, you were walking out of a place and someone's like, "Hey, come here."
Man, that's a good question. My gut reaction is the darkest thing I saw is the general disempowerment of the community.
Wow.
Like, it's not money. Because honestly, like, the money it takes to buy an election in New Mexico is, like, sneezable for any large corporation in
Right.
the world. That, like, it's almost a joke. And it's, like, terrifying, and, like, we all need to be vigilant about that. But it also should tell us that, like, we as a community literally have so much opportunity to get shit done here. And, like, somehow along the way, because be it parties, be it money in politics, be it a lack of successful projects that we all participate in, like, we just stopped believing that was actually what we were capable of.
Right.
And that was like another big portion that led me and, like, the ramshackle crew of cool 20-year-olds that executed this campaign to do it. Was we had this idea that actions could scale up. that like the way that you treat this podcast, the care you give it, the work you put into it to grow this base is the same thing that would succeed at a larger scale too. And we think that I think all of us still believe that deeply. And so the darkest thing wasn't money. Yes, suckers, believers.
Suckers.
It wasn't money. It was the fact that when people don't believe something's possible, sometimes it's a reflection of how much they believe they can achieve.
Oh.
And I wish that everyone believed and knew, not even believed, but like knew how much they can achieve. Because that's how we turn anything around and actually create a place where we want to be.
And just as, just running as a campaign, there's money that has to be spent on your part via like just registering or like even putting yourself in, or even like merch. Do you still have merch?
We don't have any merch left. I probably have a few flyers left, maybe like hiding under like the driver's seat of my car or something. Like maybe like those places, like the black holes of your car. I'm sure I can find some.
Oh wow.
But like our merch was really successful, and we were always sad we didn't do that earlier. That was nice. But there are like real costs. Running doesn't cost anything. Like in theory, you can sign up and run with $0.
Really?
But you definitely like. So how it works? I mean, you're gonna have to pay like a filing fee. I'm assuming. Do they not have any? Okay, so you go file, but then you have to like start building up money for your campaign. The campaign is what costs money.
Yes.
It's like all about the, you have to have backers. You have to have people that believe in you. Because if you don't have that, then you'll run out of money, and then you can't, put up billboards. Can't put up advertisements on Facebook, and then you're out of money, and you're just basically like dead in the water. Yeah. And if you can't get money, that also shows that you don't really have backing.
That's like a really like totally. People think that dollars equal support, which is incredibly classist to begin with, right? Like holy crap. And like things we should be cognizant of. Because there's no way that my dollar total would have ever indicated the amount of support that the campaign had.
No, but you have to have it.
Sure.
And
sure.
if literally you have run out, then you have to have that.
It's such a weird world of like, especially on the progressive side of things, when you're like pay people for the work they do and like pay people a decent wage for the work they do versus like secretly all campaigns are pretty much exploitive and run off of volunteer labor. Like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just a reality. Like, we love our volunteers, and volunteers are so important. But like,
right.
it's a hard dichotomy for sure. Because if you were to run a campaign where you're like, it's all volunteer, somebody would clearly raise a point of saying like, well, why don't you pay people for what they're worth?
Right. And there are some of the bigger candidates that do. Mm-hmm. They've actually made a point that like all of our campaign people are getting paid. Yeah. I think Bernie was one of them.
Yeah, and like unionizing campaign staff is a really new trend on the presidential level. Certainly not something you're ever going to see on a local level, like probably in our lifetime. But
no.
At that higher level, it's a thing that's existing now, and it's really compelling. I think the coolest unions are the new ones that like actively fight for things that matter, right?
Right.
Like our film union here is super dope because it's such a malleable space. Same with campaign unions. Like that's when you really see people power in action.
Power in action. So, how do we fix the crime problem?
Wow. Casual question.
Right. Yeah, I know you got it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have an answer that I ran on 2 years ago, but like, since then I can't say I've like snorted every inch of city data I've come across.
Whoa.
Wild. I still believe that it's about distributed care systems. And what I mean by that is saying there's more points of contact to services that people require. And that's almost intentionally ambiguous when I say it now because like maybe those parameters have changed.
Yeah.
But you look at the community schools model and you don't necessarily consider investment in extracurricular activities in schools explicitly related to solving crime because so often we relate crime to policing.
Right.
And we track crime by calls put into 911
Sure.
and like arrests made and responses
Which is incorrect because so many crimes are not reported.
You're right. And furthermore, like if you're measuring what's going on in your community by the number of arrests, like that's not actually what's going on in the community.
Right.
And people are getting arrested that shouldn't even getting arrested because it's also
Right. And so like the entire collection of data in crime is not super dope. And so like when you talk about community schools, the idea is that you provide a lot of resources in one place where everybody probably goes to. Mm-hmm. And it's not saying that everybody picks up their kids from school every single day, right? Like we know that's a privilege. We know that that's like kind of like a middle-class American dream.
Oh, absolutely.
But it is saying that like it is reasonable to assume that if we put a ton of resources where you already have some responsibility or obligation to be, both on the student side of coming to school and both the parents to make it to some sort of function every now and then.
So basically, you're saying put more emphasis on school, more emphasis on the family in getting the kids from school.
Sure. I mean, more than that, it's putting things in convenient places. Schools are a place that, at some level, are convenient and makes sense. It's intuitive because people have to show up there at some point anyway. And you can do things that are beneficial for the youth and beneficial for the parents simultaneously. Like there's a homework diner, which was a hugely successful program that came out of Albuquerque. And there's also maybe like legal support for parents, or like behavioral health professionals for parents, or like even people just help them weed through the crazy bureaucracy of social services, right? That's one way that you can actually make a big impact on, like, especially probably like petty crime and stuff like that, which is what we often talk about. Property.
Right. Property. Well, that's like. So, I was talking about people talk about Albuquerque with all the crime that we have, and I was talking about Oklahoma with a friend of mine recently, and they're like, "Oh, well, I was making a joke about how Oklahoma sucks, because you just do that. You like talk shit about the other states, and they're like, oh, well, they don't have the crime that we do, and I go, yeah, you're right. I had a friend that lived in Tulsa, and 3 guys kicked the door into their house and held him and his roommates at gunpoint and took one of them to the ATM and then used a phone to clean out all of their bank accounts. I was like, yeah, you're right. It isn't like here they steal your U-Haul or your car. I've never heard of that, and they're like, oh, I could hear. I bet that would happen in Albuquerque, and I'm like, I'm sure it could. It could happen anywhere, but I've never heard of it happening there.
So Tulsa, crazy spot in the world, has this really cool program where if you like move there as a satellite worker, and like I need to be double checked on this for sure, but there's some sort of employment opportunity where if you are a remote worker and you move there, you get like $10,000 straight up.
Wow.
And they have all these like really cool incentives to move there and like increase the vibrancy of the city. That's like a different gamble than Albuquerque should ever but it's like a really cool, like here's what other cities are doing. How can we also explore our pros and cons and like strengths and weaknesses? One aspect of crime in Albuquerque that I think is super important, and that wasn't so apparent during the campaign, that I think is incredibly like intimate and hard to deal with, and no one has the right solution, and I respect anyone who has to try and tackle this problem, is that a lot of our violent crime is actually like youth-based, and there's a lot of youth-on-youth crime, and that's why I think schools are so important, and opportunities, extracurriculars are so important. And I understand I have a very privileged lens on that, but I mean, it's just true.
White privilege?
Yeah, white privilege. I have, a parent who was able to stay home, and I had incredible experiences in extracurricular opportunities. Nice. Like I was in the youth symphony, which costs money for sure. And like,
oh yeah, I saw that picture.
Yeah, what?
I was all nerd.
That's me. But my parents made me fundraise for those, for that tuition out of more of like value than necessarily need, and that's a cosmic difference.
Someone in the chat called you Morty.
And so you were from here then? You went to high school, middle school, elementary, everything?
I went to high school like 6 blocks from here.
Ooh.
I don't know. I can't reveal the location of the Bat Cave, but
yeah, you can't. It used to be on Facebook. So let's jump to an alternate universe. The election is ended.
This is so Rick and Morty.
Gus Pedrotty has won the election. It's January 1st. You've been sworn in. January 2nd. You've been sworn in. What's your first order of business?
I mean, if it was like 2018 and it was my first order of business, like it was fire the police chief and like go on an aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I mean like go on an aggressive national search for a new one with like new values and really work on trying to create a culture change in the police department. Like I take that DOJ mandate seriously, and it's a very complicated history, and like there's a lot going on there, and I appreciate and respect the nuance of that issue, but a culture change to a more understanding and health-centered, like public health-centered idea of policing is important.
And protect.
Yes.
Yeah, weird order of language there. Interesting. What does service mean?
What does service mean? Yes. Well, you see some kids that are of color, and you take your baton. See, no, I'm just kidding. That's the attitude that we've had.
Sure. And it is interesting that the DOJ mandate, and this is like total facts, we are one of the few police departments in the nation that our DOJ mandate isn't about racial profiling, but it's explicitly about excessive use of force, mostly pertaining to behavioral health, which is like interesting
Mental
because
illness, yeah.
right.
And that was the whole Boyd thing you were talking about earlier.
Well, it was more than that. Like, if you actually went and read the Department of Justice thing, several of the people that, like, everybody thinks that the police shoot people and kill them. No. They shoot them with a taser and then leave the taser on till the taser kills them. Right? That's what it said in that. I read the synopsis of the article.
Sure, I believe there are instances of definitely non-lethal uses of force.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And like the department here, the police department here was a test ground for actually the company Taser.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so a non-lethal weapon, like several people died from.
We have some questionable contract choices, to say the least, and that culture kind of almost like comes into full focus when you realize that we like also host like the NRA police shooting championships, and you're like, there's nothing inherently wrong about that, but man, this constellation of variables feels like something we should address.
So somebody in the chat asked it's a question I wanted to ask, and I was going to shy away from it because I have someone in the chat.
Priors.
Yeah. I have priors.
Priors.
I didn't want to come off as like I was attacking this, but this is not from me. So what does Gus think about spending money on campaigns like One Albuquerque? Is that a good use of money?
It's not as like new or singular as you might think it is. So like almost every mayor undergoes a rebrand. So even like that seal you see, that seal is like super historic and it feels very much like Hispanic, like conquistador-esque. I think that was a Marty Chavez thing, and that's worth checking me on. So like, as far as rebrands go, like I think like there's no understating that like marketing is important, and cities taking a serious look at marketing and trying to create a mood in a space is like important. I wish that One Albuquerque had more physical places for me to be, and more like tangibles for me to participate in.
That's what I was saying too. Yeah,
because I don't know if you know about the article that came out last week from KOAT.
I'm familiar.
The 300. I mean, if people listening out there. So apparently, and I mean, and I've brought this up, and and people are like, no, that's normal. But like $312,000 were spent on just shirts, and
like swag.
Yeah, swag. And someone's like, well, no, but that's how much billboards and all that costs. I said, no, not billboards. Just shirts and pins and swag. Like
not the obnoxious sign in Civic Plaza.
Sure.
Like,
just
one thing that I brought up when we were discussing it on Facebook is like, I wish that One Albuquerque was actually making Albuquerque one.
Right.
Meaning, why don't we have local artists doing things? Why don't we have like art installations?
It actually is that.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm saying, like, why don't we have more interactive things to bring the community together?
And so I think the city has a natural struggle with cultivating real engagement, and that's not the fault of this administration. It's a structural failure of a history of government not being connected to a community, and like that will forever be one of the largest challenges for government to overcome. And like, it takes both sides coming together and agreeing on what that means. And I'm happy to get into those criticisms, but like One Albuquerque does come from a local artist, and like One Albuquerque is a message that I think we can all get behind. But like
I just don't feel like that they've portrayed that message clearly.
It hasn't been good at giving us a space to actualize it.
Right.
But as far as like the fact that we all know what One Albuquerque is now, and the fact that we can talk about it here,
I don't think people do.
I don't know what I don't know what that is.
We've seen it, right?
Okay,
what it is a hard discussion.
So I can kind of, because I actually like started reading that article, and instead of just going, "Hey, this is dumb and bullshit. We should throw somebody in jail," I actually went and like did some research on it. So what it is One Albuquerque is an initiative that was created by I can't remember his title. It's Carlos Contreras, Chief Marketing Officer Carlos Contreras, so it's all right. And it's like supposed to be like an all-encompassing community. So there's an app so that if like you go on the app and you see a pothole, you can take a photo and say this is where this pothole is, or this is where this thing is broken, and then they get it and then they go, oh, let's go fix that and clean it up. And it's supposed to be engaging with the community. And then there's several events that are happening, and you can go through the app and see all that stuff. And I know that because I went and looked it up.
I mean, here's the number one problem, though. I didn't know any of that happened.
I had
didn't
no
even
idea
know
what
artists were
Almanac
involved
was.
in it.
Yeah.
So maybe the problem isn't so much the idea behind it, but the communication, the clear
Well,
communication.
you can't just throw a slogan out there and go, there you guys go.
Right,
There it
it's
is.
And I mean, like, you're totally right on that. It takes clarity and it takes action behind
Yeah.
those words.
Sure. I mean, because how many of you guys knew there was an app?
I mean,
I didn't.
He did.
I'm a nerd.
Well,
I
I'm
know.
going to look at it now. So
Yeah.
thank you, 10 Drink Minimum, for
Yeah.
telling me about
Now
One
you know.
Albuquerque.
10 drink minimum.
you
PSA
did-
is sponsored by the city of
If you
Albuquerque.
don't know, now you know.
Yeah, and it's so the app. What I use the app for. I have big qualms with like how the city uses technology as a whole.
Yeah.
I think we have total like light years to improve on like what our website looks and feels like, and how we
Yeah.
feel like we can affect change
It's
and
called
learn resources.
Wix.com, motherfuckers.
Check it out. Well, I'm a Squarespace boy, so just kidding, Wix forever.
First of all, we're Squarespace
Yeah,
here.
like come on. Just kidding, Blogspot. WordPress? No, that's
No,
too much.
it's all
I'm
called
sorry.
Angel Fire, and it's called GeoCities.
Just
Oh,
Nexus,
geocities.
Lexus, Lycos.
Dang. But so apps, technology, integration, all those things like can improve so much from the city standpoint. But like I have used the app to like report like needles. They have a needle reporting feature.
Okay.
As well as like it's not just like show us what you don't like or what's bad, but it also has like services you can access for you personally.
I feel like we're doing more work, more of the work for them than they
Yeah,
do.
maybe. We also like City of Albuquerque has a real time bus tracker that's pretty down.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I love it. So
Yeah,
it's, I use it.
Yeah,
But-
but that was
Useful.
beyond. That was before this administration ever.
Yeah,
came in.
yeah. TBH though, like watched a kid at a coding camp do it better in 3 weeks. But,
Of course
like,
he did.
I mean, I'm just
Wow.
saying, like Albuquerque's got a lot of fucking talent, and I
Yeah.
just want to shout out the incredible youth here who are like really grinding to
Yeah.
make good things happen.
Yeah.
Well,
Shout out to Albuquerque Riot,
so
though.
I've actually been in their main facility, where they run all of the tracker
Sure.
and all of the buses, everything. And what you probably think it is and what it looks like is totally two separate things. What it is downtown where the theater is. Across the street, there's that bus station.
Right.
Upstairs in a little room that has the most antiquated old-ass shit computers is where two people basically work and keeping the buses on, like oh shit, this one's down, can you see? And it's really antiquated and terrible.
Wow.
You can't understate like how much city employees as a whole like need better opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like we focus so much on like the mayor and these like 11th floor positions,
Right.
but like there are 6,000 people working to make the city run in unbelievable conditions. Like, and it's not like
Yeah.
like it's a fine place to work. Like the view is great, but like the resources aren't incredible.
Right.
And
No.
the teams are small, and there's like so much going on now, and we like really could use. There's this whole story about how we like tried to balance the budget on the backs of the workers in City Hall, which isn't sustainable, right? Like you can't say we've fixed the economy by taking away what
Someone's
we've
pension.
promised. Yeah, someone's pension.
Someone's pension.
To city employees and like reduce all of these things that they were promised. But they do like so much work so tirelessly, and they really are a heart and soul in this community that I wish we gave better visibility to,
Right.
because they could answer questions that we don't even know how to ask. Like
Oh, yeah.
one of the cool things about One Albuquerque, and like I'm not the poster child for One Albuquerque, let's be clear. Like it's not, I can't say it's like what I would have done day one.
Right.
But what I do like about it is that it has allowed departments this small inch of differentiating themselves, but being connected. And it's small, but it's an important branding notice. Like each department has a different color.
Oh.
And so when you see a One Albuquerque shirt,
Yeah.
it represents different things.
That's why they're so expensive.
Right, there it is. And that's
Oh.
why each department has printed its own thing, and why there are all these different
see.
budgetary things related to it.
I gotcha.
And I hope it gives some like city hall workers an inch.
See, nobody knew that until you just
Sure.
said that.
And we should respect that inch, and we should say, hey, Office of Neighborhood Coordination,
Right.
we're a neighborhood association. How do we use these resources? Hey, Aviation Department, you have this really incredible budgetary thing where you're like an enterprise budget, which is this separate thing where they make their own money and they do all these cool things and they have all these developments. And we have 2 airports in Albuquerque that no one knows about. And like, why don't we know what questions to ask you? Why
Right.
can't we
Right.
know your achievements and celebrate in step with you?
Right.
Because that is One Albuquerque.
Right.
But like just to circle back to that, because like there was also like this article that came out about One Albuquerque that I feel like gave it a bad rap, And while there are fair criticisms, a lot of what's going around related to this $300,000 mark is not the fair criticism of it. It's what you pointed out, Holly, about engagement and communication. But I really think that when we think about transit in these small departments, we need to celebrate the workers more often, which is probably true of any industry. And probably why we should tip our goddamn service workers.
Yes.
Because it's people that make these systems move, and ideas maybe inspire, but it's people every day of the week.
So working for the federal government, it's really amazing to people who are outside of government to not understand how little communication actually goes between the different things. And it really, like everybody always talks about, oh, well, it's the government that runs slow. Yes, because nobody fucking talks to anybody.
Right.
No one ever talks to each other. And then, like, if you do have a pipeline into somewhere, they retire or they move on and go. And then you're like, well, shit, who do we talk to over in this area? And so, I mean, having what he's saying, like, if they create like a hub where it can flow back and forth. So whenever you're in government, then you get these weird positions where they're like liaisons. And they're like the people who basically their job is to take, okay, so what do you want to tell them? Cool. And then they go over here and they're like, okay, they want to know like when the bathrooms are going to be done, you know? And then the department that does that is like, well, we're on a timeline here. We got to go get this done first. And then they're like, okay, well, they're busy, you know? And it really is like that. And people don't understand. And
I don't. Yeah, it's kind of weird to me.
Sometimes it be that way.
But that's how it works. Because, I mean, everything is under... So, say you have City Hall. City Hall is full of all these different departments. And I don't know exactly if this is how it works, but this is how the federal government works. So one office is up here, one office is over here. Well, these guys answer to this person, and these guys answer to this person. And so then if they're mad at each other, it doesn't fucking matter. Because they're like, oh, I'm mad at you. I'm going to go tell my boss. I don't give a shit. I don't work for him. And that's really how it works.
So that's almost true. So there's this really cool... You can see this nifty organizational chart on the City of Albuquerque's website. So if you Google, like...
I was going for more of the federal.
Right. But, like, I mean, it's an important thing to recognize because it's not totally wrong. And the federal government, I think the president is more separate. I don't know. I'm not a government expert, let's be honest.
It's all fractured all over the place.
Yeah, and, like, I also want to, like, be clear... As much as I've learned about the city, like, I am not a trivia master of today's city government.
Oh, no, that's what I read
and,
here.
Like, what?
Right here. So you're the go-to knowledge of Albuquerque.
Really?
This is on your Facebook page.
Who wrote that? That wasn't me.
Just kidding.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
But so you can look at the org chart for the city, and it's true. There are kind of different bosses, sort of. Like, right, you have department directors of every single department. Some of those departments have deputy department directors. And then depending on those departments, they report to different chief blank officers of the city.
Right.
So there's the chief administrative officer. There's the chief operating officer. And those people then report to the mayor. And those roles, and because we don't have a lot of visibility to how the city works, have changed greatly. So like from Marty Chavez till now, the chief administrative officer has a much different role and scope. Yeah. And it's hard to necessarily keep tabs on those. Like, there are positions that don't exist in our city charter. So the city charter is the governing document of Albuquerque.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And the 11th floor has the ability, the 11th floor being the mayor's office. Sorry, like, refer to that like that's common language. There are 11 floors in City Hall.
Goes into my next question.
Thank you. Yeah, it's where the mayor lives. But, like, the mayor has the opportunity to make new positions as they see fit. So, like, one of those that feels like it's a position you know about, but it's called chief of staff. The chief of staff is not something in the city charter, but is a position many people lean on in city government. And that changes between every mayor. It depends on the mayor's governing styles. And that's, one day I hope to know about, but who knows?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You were talking about recognizing city workers.
Yeah.
And I have to say I had a really, really, really good interaction with somebody who works in the courthouse. I don't know if that's necessarily a city worker.
I think it's pronounced Quartz House.
Quartz House.
House?
So I had a problem, and it was the whole thing of, like, I didn't know who to ask a question. I had a problem with my divorce. Okay? And I didn't know who to ask a question. I didn't even know if there was anything that could help me with the problem I was having. And I called, And this guy sounded so flustered and so busy and seemed like he probably works alone or something. Like, he just seemed so busy. But I said, look, I'm sorry to bother you, but I am so stressed out and I don't know how to do this. And he was so comforting and so sweet, and he took the time. And so I think sometimes we forget that these people are so busy and they serve us when we call them to help us solve problems. But this guy, he knew a question. He gave me an answer to a question I didn't even know I needed to ask.
Oh, that man.
And it was
Tim
amazing.
Keller. Oh.
No, I did not call Tim Keller to ask him how to solve my divorce, but
10 Keller minimum.
10 Keller minimum.
My voting profile.
That'd be so amazing for his re-election if he stole our logo. Tim Keller minimum.
My question is actually, so obviously you have all these ideas, these platforms that can be easily like, I guess for me, because I'm so intelligent to comprehend and be like, this is what my guy is about. Go back to when you were running. Say there were people who, just like, because there's always that campaign idea of like, who would I have a beer with, or like who's more accessible, like who would I like more, Kim Keller or just Gus Pedrotty? Is there like a different persona you have to pander to people who don't necessarily know your platform or care to understand, versus like somebody who's just like kind of a nerd?
Yeah, I mean, like I think you'll have to take this with a grain of salt because I am only myself and do not know all the ways that I am, if that makes sense.
You didn't kiss any babies?
Oh my God, somebody made me kiss a baby once and it made me so uncomfortable.
I don't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like,
well, I like that Gus Pedrotty. He was talking about stuff I didn't even understand, but he's the,
He said Liddy committee.
Liddy committee. That's what all the committees would be. To be fair, the people that made me kiss their baby were also these like super rad, like pro normalizing like breastfeeding in public crew that I totally have mad respect for.
Oh, okay.
And it was
Dope.
super wild. I was like, I will only do this thing that I'm uncomfortable for because you all are doing such awesome work to normalize something that should be so natural.
Yeah.
You want a beer?
I do want a beer. I'd love that.
That's definitely
Or
something.
you ever like just kind of like, well, of course, the thing is, my platform is I'm going back to the old ways, kind of.
So I'm going to ask this question, and then we're going to tease a question. How much do you? This is from Chris Fortson, who's really like he's a big supporter of yours. He really liked your platform. He said.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Chris.
So he said, how much do you think your age played in as a factor of you losing?
Tons. And like that's not to say that it was the only variable, but like obviously tons. It's the first thing. Like let's be honest. I don't even like look old for my age. This is like probably 7 months of stubble growth.
You look like you're on
can't
Bob's
see it.
Burgers. You're like one of the kids on
Yeah.
Bob's Burgers.
Actually, when you came into press club, I did card you.
Yeah, that's
because
fine.
I was like, there's
Right.
no way. They're
Yeah.
like, why did you just card Gus Pedrotty?
Hey, so this is sidebar. I had such a positive experience at press club that night that I have since become a member.
Ooh.
And they still card me. Just kidding. But like sometimes.
Sometimes.
So now we're going to tease a question because
Sure.
we're at the end of the first hour. And everybody in the chat's like bringing this up. And I'm like, I was getting there. Do you think I was going to fucking ask this question? So we're going to tease what Gus thinks about the art project for the second hour.
Oh my God!
Oh,
Everybody's
gosh.
like, are you going to ask about the art project? Yes, I'm going to fucking ask about the art project. Of course I'm going to.
And now Gus is just not going to come back.
We'll come back. Gus has left. He threw a beer in our face, destroyed part of our equipment, and walked out the door. He's fucking pissed. He said, fuck you and fuck you.
You're cool. He
you're
points
cool.
to me.
You're cool.
I'm out of here.
So, Billy, what do you got coming up for your band?
I have a show October 5th. I have actually Gus. You should promote your fucking
That's
band.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay, so October 5th we have a show. I think the 25th of September, this end of this month. Please buy the new record.
Oh yeah,
that I sold
October
in.
5th. You have a show.
Yes, that's the
Dialogue
Dialogue
Room?
3-year anniversary.
3-year
Happy
anniversary.
birthday, Dialogue. You're great.
Thank you and if you guys go to that show, you can drink our beer.
It's
10 drink
delicious.
minimum-
Just
10
had
drink
it.
minimum brown.
Oh, did you like it?
I really did.
Billy
Yeah.
and I helped make it. So
Delicious.
our blood and our sweat and our tears are in there.
It's extra
Literally.
spicy.
Literally.
Just sweat.
I'm
Actually.
all more sweat, Billy, more sweat. And he's just wringing his shirt off in it. You know, I'm just kidding.
No, but it was, I the beer's really great. Also, I have the Night of Living cover bands, which is actually announced the lineup of October 25th.
My favorite night of the year.
And so we play the 25th, which with Bellama as NXS and as Black Tie as U2. So
Whoa.
it's pretty much my last show here in New Mexico.
Don't talk about that
Maybe.
right now. I'm gonna start
Maybe.
crying.
Maybe.
Who knows? We don't know. We don't know the answer.
We
to
all
that.
start crying every time he brings it up. It's
Not okay.
Some say love.
no, don't, do not do it.
Flows.
No, stop.
I do want to say that Smiley is not here, and he's in the chat, actually.'s going to take a hiatus for a couple weeks, and all of our love goes out to him. So
We love you, James.
Love you, James.
Miss you, James.
Holly, I know you've got some stuff coming up.
I have so many things coming up. I'm very busy lady. Not really. I have every Monday, so tomorrow, at Inside Out, we have me and Royal's Idiot Revolution.
Which has really taken off.
It's really taking off. It's really a fun time. It gets crazy. It confuses people.
Nuggets.
Then there were chicken nuggets last week. So many chicken nuggets. I think we had a total of 140 chicken nuggets.
We had a nugget party, dog.
We had a nugget party. I'm not going to guarantee that there's going to be nuggets this week, but there might be.
Well, the nuggets are for the nuggets, though.
Yeah, and then on September 22nd at Kiva Auditorium at 7:30 p.m., I am roasting Mayor Tim Keller and Albuquerque as a whole. And I am nervous.
Is it like a chili roast or no?
I wish that would probably smell better.
Do you not smell like chile?
I do not.
Chile.
I should just go and stand next to a chili roaster right before it.
If I get Axe body spray to make you a chile scent, would you wear it?
I would wear it.
Green or red? Just kidding.
And it's also one of those things like Duke Panda concessions. Like, I'm a staunch green chili eater.
Oh, would you smell like it then?
I will eat any kind of chili.
Well, and I could smell it too. They've been burning them over there, roasting them.
Roasting
you're
them.
right there.
And it's
The
right
connection,
there.
dude.
And also, keep an eye out for a really weird photo shoot. Well, not weird. I sat in a bathtub today for Hollow Spirits, so.
Oh,
What?
another one?
Yeah.
Another one.
This one oranges.
No, we did not do any citrus fruits today.
Oh.
I just had
Apples?
bubbles and whiskey.
Oh, okay.
I had Toy Story apple bubble bath.
Oh, okay.
And special edition whiskey.
So you can get those pictures for your kids later on.
I'm mostly blurry in them.
Oh,
so.
okay. Gus, you have a band that actually plays. You guys played last night. Do you guys have any shows coming up? What's the name of the band, by the way?
That's true. I play in a really nifty band called Pawn Shop Poster Boys.
I love the name.
Thanks. I don't know what it means. But I'm really lucky to get to play with them. They're all super talented and a lot of fun. I don't know when our next show is. We've been playing a lot recently. You've probably maybe heard us on accident. I'm going to open up this group me and see if I have a date. But if we want to rabble on, we play ska. It's that genre that's dead.
I love ska.
I love
Don't
ska.
lie to me.
No, I really
No,
do.
the thing is, I was into ska back in high school, and it's
Don't
interesting
lie.
to have like a youngin being like, "Oh yeah, we're bringing ska
My
back."
parents let me have a
Fourth wave
ska
ska.
So I went to the Tony Hawk thing
did.
last night with one song in mind, and then our friend Gracie's like, "Let's go to Anodyne for a drink," which means like 3 drinks. I get back and oh man, they just played that Superman song from Tony Hawk, and I was like, "That's the one I wanted to hear."
We did play that one. It's
fucking
true.
It's
missed
a good one.
So let it be known that Chris totally ditched our set, and it's fine.
Oh.
I'm an
Just
asshole.
kidding.
Chris does that
Yeah,
sometimes.
he was so sad about my intimidating Tony Hawk skills that he couldn't
Motherfucker.
watch me play.
So we played 5 times. He won 1 out of 5.
3, 1 of 3. That's
It's on now. We're gonna have a
33%.
We're gonna do a thing live on the internet where we play against
Oh,
Tony Hawk
man.
3.
I'm
It's
so
gonna be-
down.
It's gonna be like pay-per-view. Watch
Yeah,
only.
it's going to be demoralizing for Chris, honestly. I'm not sure he's going to recover.
Before I forget.
him. How destructive am I at Tony
You
Hawk?
are really good at Tony Hawk.
Okay, before I forget, funny
Yeah.
story from last night. Hamster and I were
Oh,
out
yeah,
on
yeah.
a date night last night, and we ran. As soon as he heard there was a Tony Hawk themed birthday, he was like, I was
to
like,
go.
do you want to go to that? I don't know if that's like a date thing. And he was like, are you the best girlfriend ever? You're saying that we can go to a party with Tony Hawk. So he played Chris at Tony Hawk, and I go downstairs to watch the bands, and Amanda Michonne was there.
Yeah.
And we're talking, and I was like, oh, yeah, my boyfriend's playing Chris upstairs. And she points to the wall, and they had it projected on the wall. And Hamster lost to Chris, and he comes down, and he's telling it, and Amanda just points at the projected thing. She's like, yeah, we saw it.
Scoreboard. Dude, that's great.
It was, yeah.
It was a bad loss
Chris
for
is
him.
destroying the world.
Yeah, I was trying. So September 29th, we have a live show at Safe House Distilling at 1 p.m. So if you want to come out and see us live, you can, or you can just watch live on the internet like everyone else.
What accent was that?
I don't know.
That's Chris's
Who knows?
weird, creepy accent.
Weird, creepy accent. I'm a hello, Gus.
Hello.
So you can check out our show at tindrinkminimum.com. We also pretty much broadcast live on Sunday nights from facebook.com/tindrink. All of our social media is on our website, tindrinkminimum.com. What is your Instagram?
Holly Bird BYRD comedy.
Yeah. Do you want to give out anything like that? You don't have to.
I don't really do Insta, but the plug that I would have that's relevant to the first half of this thing is there's this thing called Quirks that's pretty cool, and we talk about how like it's so hard to ask and answer questions about how the city works. It's the exact thing we're trying to solve. Is how do we create small groups of people, strangers, that work to learn more about how the city works so that they become more empowered and effective at creating the change they're interested in. So you can find that on Instagram at Quirks, QWORKS, like QWorks, but never say it like that. It's ridiculous.
Qworks.
.abq.
Qworks.
That was the third Qbert arcade
gonna
game.
look that up.
Qworks. I want to thank you guys for watching. We'll be back. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll be back for the Wavy Hour with Gus Pedrotty.
We're shotgunning Tecate after this.
Oh, God.
Nice. I'm good at shotguns.
There you go.
I've just committed everyone to that.
We're definitely drinking during the show. You should be drinking as well. But always remember,
Never get too drunk to jerk. 10drinkminimum.com.
Fingers looking at the light switch, just there's a light on the wall. It's cost me a bar on the way to someplace new. As you lay your hand just where it falls, leave the light switch on. As you call, speed back on the way to someplace switch on. Light switch on, speed light switch on, the way to something, light switch on. Light switch on, speed light switch on, the way to something, light switch on. To find things I'm never supposed to see, try to resist desires inherent to forgiveness. You find yourself giving in, trying to resist. Try to switch off, light switch off, light switch off, light switch off. Try to switch off, light switch off, light switch off, light switch don't you come this way? What's the use of fire if you can't burn a seed for all to climb? My fate was not the same as everyone is slave. Your friends turn fickle, you're to blame. The envy fears to cheers as the glass they throw it break. Walk this way, was I that incommodious? Can I plead to keep my head? My fate is not the same as everyone else slave. Shards of jars that held your people's fate. Now here is my mind will be clear before my head rolls. Now here is my mind will be clear before my head rolls. Jump. For all the years that I kept quite strong, there was no use crawling to the step. I was speaking of wishes, more than days, they could be better. Don't assume that I'm just way high, the world's apart, and I wanted to save a portion for us. What could be better? How do you do that? To replace on, I'm back to my dream started. One day next to your skin. Chase it all. Was it you? Your face is red as yours. A good time to forget the end and walk with you to the corner of Richmond. Your apartment's nice, and better what we strong, there was no use crawling to the step. I was speaking of wishes, more than days, they could be better. Don't assume that I'll just wait high, the world's apart, and I wanted to save a portion for us. What could be better? How do you do that? To replace on, I'm back to my dream started. One day next to your skin. I chase it all, chase it all. You hear that sound? It's the sound of you taking me back. If I say no, that look is my own. But Patton said, for an asshole right in the ribs. Come on, just a slice of what we had. It's just the same, it's all around me a kind of ghosts floating in a maze of mind demise. Had to say
sold my soul to the bottle. Still none of my friends have left me yet. I'm the same man I was since the age of 13, and I've lived my life with no regrets. If you're looking for some freedom, all it takes is 10 drinks minimum. If you're looking for rhyme or reason, all it takes is 10 drinks minimum.
All right. We're back for the wavy hour
Hello.
Hello.
with Gus Pedrotty.
Cheers.
For people that don't know, people that are outside of the Blessed Union of New Mexico, Gus Pedrotty is one. I don't know if you're the youngest. Were you the youngest person ever run for mayor?
Maybe the youngest one to make it on the ballot, but there are a few people who are attempting who are younger than me during the pre-ballot period.
In the last mayoral election, you ran and you were 22 years old. You weren't even graduated from college yet.
Correct. That was almost cost me a degree.
Really?
That was wild. Yeah.
Wow. So a lot of people are wondering, like, what has happened since the election? You got your degree. You've went on to major success at a financial firm down to. Oh no, wait. You work.
I was like, what?
You work at Marble Brewing.
Sure.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah, I work at Marble. I've had a few other jobs. I think I turned in 10 W-2s in 2018.
Oh Jesus.
So a lot of fun jobs.
What you got? What kind of jobs?
I
you
mean,
got?
everywhere from coffee shops, breweries, Disney movies. It was wild. My transmission broke down in my car, and I was like, "How do you make money quick in Albuquerque?"
Yeah.
Movie industry.
Oh wow. Would you do
yeah.
background work? Or?
I got to relive my high school glory days and be in a marching band. Yeah. Because I'm a nerd.
What movie?
It's not out yet.
Oh.
I don't know how much I can say. Disney will probably hunt me down if I say anything too much.
That's so cool,
But
though.
It's
it'll-
Fern Gully 3.
Yeah.
Is there a 2? I don't
They're
know.
a
Chris,
marching
stop!
No, it's High School Musical 3.
Oh,
4.
that's right.
16?
That's right.
16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on.
I was a band nerd, too.
Really? What did you play?
Yes. Well, marching season,
Yeah?
I was color guard.
So you played oboe?
Flag.
But like in concert band season.
No, she was flag.
I was
Color guard. It's
She
pretty
did that-
much.
She did that during
marching
concert
season.
season. as
I don't know
Concert
if- I don't know if it's a-
season. Yeah,
I just
sat
waved a
there and
flag.
waved
I don't know if
flag.
it's a pejorative thing to say, but yeah, she was color guard. She held the flag. She didn't really
Yeah.
play
It made
anything.
Color
concert
guard's
season
not
very
pejorative.
awkward. I
It
don't
was
know.
great. It was fun.
I respect
It
color
brought
guard.
ladies together.
Word.
And then I sang in jazz band, and I attempted to be a flautist.
Flautist. There it is.
And here's the thing. Okay, so obviously you're like super busy with the campaign
Sure.
and just your own ideas and just trying to make the world a better place. What do you do in your free? Did you drink during that time?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like one of my biggest tenets was like run as you are. If a campaign has to change who you are, or if you have to angle, you're in the wrong thing, right?
Wait a minute. What are you trying to say?
I don't know, Chris. Gosh, maybe if I hit this 10 drink minimum. No, I mean, like, obviously there's posturing in politics. Everyone knows that.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
like, look at me, relatable everywhere I go. And, like, that's not true. And as communities, we should be able to call that out faster. Like, how much do you actually participate in the arts?
Yeah.
How much do you engage in these communities that you claim are important? And if you claim they're important without engaging in them, how do you internalize their importance and rationalize your disengagement?
What?
Larger conversation. To your point, though, what the hell did I do? Yeah, I drank. One time I got in this rowdy conversation at Sister Bar at like 1:30 in the morning about gun control.
Fuck yeah.
Not good. Not good. I was really upset about that one because gun control at a city level, like from purely a city level standpoint, is really nuanced because you have all these other laws that tack onto it and this hierarchy of laws,
Yeah,
and it's like
that over the supersede.
right. And like I was pretty lit, as one might be on a Saturday night at Sister Bar because like guess what? That's who I am. And then
Yes,
I tried
Gus.
to find 30 minutes because this was when Rick and Morty season 2 was happening. Like I'm that kid. I tried to watch Rick and Morty. Every
We're
week.
that people too, so yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that about like certain people have certain expectations. They're like, oh, I saw such and such out. Oh, sorry. They're like, I saw such and such out. I had a friend that was like a high school football coach, and when we were in college, I mean, we threw it down. So then I went to go visit him, and we couldn't go to the local. Like he was a football coach in a small town, and we couldn't go to the local bar because he can't be seen there because he's a teacher.
That's
And I'm like,
ridiculous.
that's so dumb.
And that, I mean, like, that's why stigmas are so shitty in the first place, right? Like, I know teachers actively who are always afraid to get turned in public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've met teachers who, even though they are willing to get turned in public once they are inebriated, like, break down in tears and think they're being shamed or are worried about their idea, like, their presentation or existence as a teacher is creating judgment from those around them. Like, we live in a super judgy culture,
Yeah.
and we need to
with
break that down.
with social media, it's like
Yeah.
check out my
Yeah.
teacher right now. It's super hella lit.
Let me
Right.
just say this. I have a 3-year-old in my house, and you know what? I want her teachers to be real fucking humans.
Yes, Holly.
They want
yes,
to do.
yes.
They want to do smack. That's their deal, man.
I mean, maybe not that far.
Chris.
Also, that's true. It's their
Come on,
fucking
Chris.
deal.
Yeah. But,
But, I mean, I think there's value in kids seeing their teachers being real
Human,
fucking humans. Because otherwise, here's the deal. I'm the type of stepmom that just cusses all the time. I drink, obviously. Not to excess when I'm taking care of the 3-year-old, just by the way.
not in the car.
Yeah, I don't drink and
Oh
drive
my
while I
God.
have the 3-year-old.
Whoa, coming out of my nose.
But, it's like also just to be real as a real parenting person, like if you have this perfect person, seemingly perfect human being taking care of your kids all day, you know what that kid is going to think of me? She's going to think I am such a shit show, which I am. That's fair, but I don't want her to think that.
And that's like a broader conversation that's really important is like, how do you, especially in like today's culture of like, and I don't say this as a negative way, but like we live in a call out culture.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And the far end of that spectrum is a cancel culture. And it's really important to be able to call out the people you care about.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
really important to be able to criticize the people you love and the people close to you and criticize openly and then still fervently care for them.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
like the side of the spectrum that doesn't care for those people that you get to call out is called incarceration, which is
Right.
bad.
Yeah.
And like is part of what we're trying to break down in society today.
Right.
And like we need to find as communities better pathways to understanding, to atonement, and maybe, depending on the situation, ultimately forgiveness. Because
Yeah.
like if you don't live those tenets in your life, you can't grow and you can't confidently, I don't think, because I believe I'm a transgressor and like we've all messed up in big ways in all of our
Absolutely.
lives. Like how are you supposed to go on?
Yeah. Someone said in
Right.
the chat, "Why is it okay to see an off-duty police officer out having fun and drinking,
Yeah.
etc., but it's weird for a teacher or a politician?"
Right.
Exactly.
Double standard.
Well,
Also, I have a 3-year-old in my house, and the teachers and daycare workers need drinks.
Oh shit. Yeah.
So much drinks.
Buy them a
not
drink.
At work. Not at work.
Not
but-
at work.
Sure.
Sorry,
Yeah.
obviously, please don't drink while you take care of Danny, for the love of God. But please, like, understand that these people have a hard job that
Totally.
they're not paid well for.
No.
And they are raising the future of our country. And you know what? If they want to get turned at Sister Bar on a Monday, who gives a shit?
Right.
Here to support teachers. Shouts
Well,
out.
And I had it's funny because like we live in a weird culture, and we have a call out culture. I agree with that, but you also have to, if someone calls you out and they're wrong, you should be able to fucking turn around and be like, you know what, here's why you're wrong. And I've done that. Like it's funny because like every once in a while I go to work really early in the morning, and I'll go out during the week because like my friends are playing in a band or there's an art show or there's something going on. And one day I called in sick because it was like the first day of like allergy season, and the juniper bush decided to try
Sure.
to kill me.
Right.
So I was laid in bed. So next day I come into work and somebody goes, "Oh, you didn't come into work yesterday? Did you drink too much the night before?" And I fucking went off. And I said, first of all, I was actually sick. Second of all, if I'm man enough to go out drinking, I'm man enough to get up in the morning and go to work. You know, because that's how I am. And if I have a hangover, that's on me. I come in and I still do the work. And they were
Right.
like, "Oh, you've been hungover at work?" And I'm like, "Several times. Didn't even know it, did you?" That's because
Right.
I'm a professional.
I mean,
Damn.
I get a lot of people who judge me, and we've seen it in the chat. Like,
Oh yeah.
we get people who are like, who would allow their daughter to be around this, like, fuck up stand-up comedian? You know what? Sometimes I do fuck up. But I own it by talking about it in a microphone on
Damn
stage.
straight.
Totally.
And that's it's a valid life choice.
And
Stu Albert.
Stu Albert.
it's so brave to admit how you were wrong and admit how you've grown.
Yeah.
And like I want more of that and not less in communities.
Right.
Every
Oh, yeah.
single day of the week.
So talking about just the community here in Albuquerque, is there like a difference between like local communities versus say the national scene of as far as politics go?
Oh, jeez. That's a well.
That's yeah. I mean, like that's a really interesting question, and I appreciate you think that I'm at all qualified to answer that question. From a gut reaction, there's definitely analogs to how it's similar as far as blind spots in the media, right? Like more than anything, we exist in our own vacuums today. So like whatever the national reality is, we live in an algorithm of our own wants and needs.
Well, and apparently on the national level, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You just say it's a lie.
True.
People bring it up.
And,
I mean,
yeah,
that's just what you do.
And in the case, right, especially in the progressive audience of our listeners, that's very salient at the national level. But like, I'm not so certain that hasn't been the case at every other level of politics at almost every other time in history. And like, it feels so egregious and transparent now. Like it's obscene. Like every day you're like, I think the world's ending and I might be having a heart attack, or maybe it's just my anxiety.
Yeah.
But like, I like when especially when coming back to that issue of disempowerment and this level of honestly ignorance about the city, and like myself included, for how much I've tried to study the city, like myself included when it comes to ignorance about how this place works. Like we don't know, so how could we know, right? Like you don't know what you don't know, and like when things happen,
are you quoting Donald Rumsfeld?
Is that like, come on, man? It's like being like, dude, the ties that bind are stronger than the ties that bridges that burn.
There are known unknowns and known knowns.
Those are just like
there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Oh my god, that one's actually quotable. The other ones are to history.
Yeah.
But like, so as far as like tribalism exists everywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
In-group, out-group psychology is something that's been scientifically proven time and time again. Does Albuquerque have that? Of course. How it's defined is interesting, and I think this is like my biggest thing I'm super stoked on is the chance that we get to redraw our city council district lines coming up.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So with the census,
it's gonna be so exciting.
Yeah, everyone fill out the goddamn census. It's super important and like really worth it.
Yeah, don't pull your gun on them when they come to the door to ask how many people live in your house.
100%, and then get everyone in the house to fill out the census.
Yes.
Honestly.
Uncle Ray.
But after we have that census, we get to redraw lines. And that's really important because if you don't know your city council district, you should. Second of all, look at where the lines are and ask if that actually feels like how you experience home.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then start talking with people about their experiences of home. Because I live at the intersection of 3 council districts. I live at the intersections of 2, 6, and 7.
What part of town do you live in?
Nob Hill area.
Okay.
Exactly what you'd expect.
Of course he does.
Yeah, dude.
So you live up the hill? I see.
It's
Snob Hill.
I don't know if you listen to the show very much. We're all about tribalism. Like it's really weird. Like, and I'm not just making that up. We are. Like, it's really a big thing on this show. We never call it that. But it's really funny.
No, it's called civic pride, Chris. We
No.
love downtown.
Oh, so we talk about downtown, and then like Billy and I, like we used to have an intro to this show that was like, you're listening to from deep in the heart of
Santa Barbara
neighborhood. Martinez down the Santa Barbara, and it was really into that. And then like whenever the show was downtown, from deep in the heart of from the muddy banks of the
Rio Grande
River, you're listening to and it was really like regionalizing. And it's interesting to me how often you run into someone who's from Albuquerque, grew up in Albuquerque, lived in Albuquerque, and they're like, so where do you live at? And I'll go, well, I live in the Santa Barbara neighborhood of Martinez Town. And they're like, what?
I just want to make that noise on the show.
Do it as much as you want.
Thanks.
They always make fun of me, speaking of tribalism.
Because she lives in the Heights, guys. She's not a person.
I mean, you're disgusting, first of all.
I know, it's not my fault.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Sorry, Kendrick Nation.
My best friend, who sacrificed so much at the beginning of my comedy
Like
thing.
satanic sacrifice?
Yes.
Okay.
We had pentagrams and all kinds of stuff. It was great.
16 goats.
She works in the Northeast Heights, and we lived downtown for a while when I worked at Press Club, and I had a 2-minute commute, and she had to drive forever, so we made a compromise. And also, she has to get up at 5 in the morning, and I never do. So, I know it's disgusting, but also
You never wake up?
Not at 5 a.m. Hell no.
Is this the Matrix?
And then also, I have 2 swimming pools in my apartment complex,
jeez.
which is
Wow. That's total Heights mentality. I got 2 fucking swimming pools.
I do.
Because we're wealthy.
Okay,
No, we're not wealthy.
Rewind to 2017. Running for mayor, somebody's like, "Are you aware there are 2 swimming pools in a single apartment complex?" I'd be like, "No, literally impossible." This is in Phoenix.
Not impossible. It's amazing. And a hot tub.
And hypothetically, if I were there, it's like, boy, did you know about this? Like, Gus, I'll get on that right away. I'm gonna check her facts. Actually,
So before the chat explodes, how do you
chat.
feel about the art project?
Oh yeah,
Sure,
before
sure,
people
sure.
die of heart attacks.
So first of all, fill out the census. Check out your lines. It's crazy. It looks gerrymandered as hell.
Oh, totally.
And then art project. Look, like all of us were super critical about the art project. There are some really cool groups in town that people don't know about. Like the city of Albuquerque gets its data from a lot of different places, and like we don't have any
The
place.
scooters, apparently.
Oh, Spin. Is it Spin that
Spin,
does
Spin, yes.
Spin. City does our bikes. So for some reason, Lime didn't come here. Rip. So there's this group in town that I really respect called the Mid-Region Council of Governments.
Ooh, sounds ominous.
It's called, you can just call it Mr. Cog. And they do really incredible data work. And it's like a whole bunch of city nerds who really care. And art is a total Charlie Foxtrot of everything what not to do about community engagement and communicating plans in the city.
It's the definition of the word boondoggle.
Sure, that's probably true. And it's crazy to think that, like,
okay, can I stop you? Can I ask what a Charlie Foxtrot is and a boondoggle is?
Clusterfuck.
Okay, thank you.
A boondoggle is usually used for a government like project.
It's like a money pit.
A money pit, like it was like a good idea maybe, but then it just turned into just fucking, absolute chaos and just a waste and,
My vocabulary just grew. I like it.
Plus one word.
Please, I'm sorry. I'm hearing all these words.
Sure,
I don't know what they are.
Hey, I appreciate that. Definitions are important. So like, first of all, like learning how many people like thought or think about issues in the city is important, because it's not just like some magical person that you elect that like it gets imbued with all the information. Like the structure around how we learn things is super cool. Art's a tragedy. No one really has to beat around that bush.
And I don't think they're going to fix it to where it's... I mean, they're going to fix it, but it's not going to be right. And it's not going to be what they want.
And here's like the hard reason for like... It's hard for me to talk about art because 2 years ago, we all had an idea about how we'd renovate art. I had pretty explicit and clear ideas about like what I thought we could do with the platforms and the system. Art has always been a 3-stage plan that tries to connect more north and south lines, but for some reason the first line we made was the east-west on the 66, which has the most transit lines to begin with, which is weird. But like, why I feel uncomfortable talking about art today is because I'm sure there are so many variables that have been revealed since we ran. They're like, like seriously, like I don't know, and
Mary Berry's like, Bob,
what am I doing? But like,
what's up, guys?
My heart goes out to anyone who has to deal with that issue right now, because it is hard. And I really hope is that I hope it doesn't degrade the trust the community has in public work projects going forward. Because
I'm sure it will.
I'm sure it will too. But like as traumatic as it is, I hope we hold on to the things that changed our lives as community members that were public works projects. So when I think of that, growing up in the city, I think about Highland Pool. I think about Elena Gallegos, trails and mountain biking. And more than anything else, I think about our bioparks. And like, this sounds super corny, and like this might just be because I'm like this much of a city nerd, but like thinking about the biopark almost brings me to tears when I'm this many drinks in, because it's a place I went every year on school field trips.
Oh yeah,
and
totally.
every year, depending on my education, there was somebody else educating me at the next level of biology or zoology or whatever ology I was studying at the time. And I was inspired. And
that's
like,
what ology means. Study up.
Oh, it's true. Facts. Chris with the definitions.
Big facts.
And like, I can't. Somebody growing up and having a place that's exciting, fun, educational. Yes. We have concerts there. Like, and our zoo is a top 10 zoo in the United States.
It's amazing.
It's such a pride point.
I saw Lisa Loeb there.
I don't know who that is.
Fucking great.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Sorry.
man. You know,
Open a book.
When you say that, so our 3-year-old loves bugs. Okay, she loves bugs, and there are not very many places that she can safely explore scary bugs. And we took her to the Bugorium.
Oh man!
And she was in heaven, like just looking at all the bugs. There was a guy there that pulled out these beetles that looked like chrome, and she could hold
Chromed
them.
out, check my teeth.
Yeah,
That's my
it
new
was
band, Chrome Beetles.
amazing. Chrome Beetles. It's a thing. They're shiny and adorable. But he was so patient with her and let her pet things and touch a tarantula and all these things. And it is so affordable.
Totally.
Also.
Yes, and like there are all these cool community activities surrounding it too, right? Like Run for the Zoo is something we all know, and it is a
Yes.
direct fundraiser to help support these programs. And like when I notably also the zoo is one of the top tourism destinations in our entire state. So like when you
Yes.
see
Right.
like hundreds of thousands of dollars of like Meow Wolf advertising, think of how many ads you've seen for the biopark. None. And realize that it is one of the biggest bread bringers
Yes.
and like attractions that our city offers, and you should be stoked on that.
I'm
like,
so sore about it.
I'm really sore on Run for the Zoo because
you had to run 3 miles.
No, because we were at a party.
Oh, this is amazing.
So we were
How
at
do
a
you even
party
know this story? You were fucking so wasted.
because I don't remember it. You told me everything about it.
Oh gosh.
And
Can,
so
I can I tell it?
Can you please tell it?
Okay. So we partied the night before the Run for the Zoo. Had no idea that the Run for the Zoo was the next day. So we're at our friend's house, and it is like
6 a.m.
And we go walk outside, and it's light outside, and then they're like saying goodbye to us, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to get home. I walk over to the neighbor's lawn and throw up. Like, not even hide. I don't go to the bush. I just stand in the front lawn and just like, blah. So they're probably like, oh, my God, there's one of them going to vomit in the yard. Oh, God. So then I grab Billy, and we start walking home. We're like, we're going to walk home because, you know, we didn't have that much money back then. So all of a sudden, we're walking home, and we just run right into the Run for the Zoo.
It's like,
I mean,
I guess
great.
things I don't remember. I fall into a plant.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
officers were there. It's like,
And they're like, is he okay? And I go, nah, he's pretty wasted, but, and I'm like, but I'm getting us an Uber home, and so I'm getting him out of here. And and at that point they're like, all right. And finally, like I call an Uber and I just bite the bullet. They come and they pick us up, and I mean they were probably just like. That's why I have like a 4.89 rating. That's probably why, because they were probably like, "Oh Jesus, you know, you guys." One smells like vomit, the other smells like booze. Jeez.
so it was basically the personnel for the Run for the Zoo.
And they're
It's
like running by us, all health conscious.
And I was I fell into a bush.
Yeah, he did. And then he like laid down on the sidewalk
Oh my god.
while people are running by.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
God bless the Run for the Zoo.
Maybe
because,
we
God
should
bless.
start running for Run for the
because
Zoo.
if honestly, I think
because
the,
you guys did that to them.
the,
Yeah,
if the Run for the Zoo wasn't there, we would have been we walked home
Yeah.
and we probably got arrested
Probably
by the
got
actual
arrested.
cops.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
actual
Run
cops.
for the Zoo saved your life.
Well,
Yeah.
the cops were so busy with the Run for the Zoo they couldn't arrest us.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's really what happened.
Right.
so what
um,
you're saying is Run for the Zoo is magical, as is the biopark.
It is, agreed. So I want to talk about art a little bit, and I want to see, you know, because I mean, it's easy to sit on the outside and say things, and it's easy to like come up with
Yeah.
ideas. So my thing with the art was I was a big proponent for it, and one of the things when people would run for mayor, I would always look to see what if they had any platform that had to do with public transportation, and I would ask Billy, I'd get really mad. I'd be like, what the fuck?
I love the bus. Actually, Chris and I love the bus.
Yeah, and my thing is when they came out with the art idea, I was not happy with it, but I was like happy with it. I was like, well, okay, great. We're gonna run a bus line along the same place where we have a bus line, you know. And I'm like, I don't think. I mean, I like the idea of the art, and I like the idea that it was like every 15 minutes, and it was going to be like electric and all that. Sounds great, but what our city really needs is transportation from the outside of the city into the city, and
Yes.
a light rail. Like and like I don't even and I'm not a city planner, but like my thing would be something that goes all the way around the outside and can get you to a bus that can get you to the inside.
Sure. And like what that's colloquially called in like transit planning stuff is the last mile, right? Mm-hmm. How do you get better transit from like
Yeah.
those destinations that take another mile to get to the public transit that's already existing?
Sure.
And there's this infinite idea of a last mile that makes it very hard for people to want to talk about, because like at some point the last mile for Albuquerque becomes like, all right, how are you connecting like super distal places, like not just like Bernalillo, but like, is
Right.
Algodones a last
Yeah.
mile?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
true.
Like, is it not just Cardwell, but Tejeras and then Cedar Crest a last
I
mile?
lived in a
I mean, let's not get
estancia.
crazy. These
I'm
places
sorry.
are-
Yeah, me too.
What was that like?
I'm a bus
Awful.
traveler, and all I'm saying is I was so for art, and I'm actually still for art with the infrastructure
Sure.
that's still here now.
Right.
I would
Yeah.
love something to happen with it.
And I think it's okay for us to talk about the pros of art too, right? Like, first of all, having a bus system that makes sense, that it's on a consistent schedule with high visibility
Yeah.
is literally things
Yeah.
that people market their entire cities on. Like,
Yes.
have you ever seen an advertisement about New York related to the subway system? Because I have.
Yeah.
Like, the New York subway is iconic, and like that subway is like a miracle unto itself. But like, you can fathom that we have transit lines that we get to market too. So
Yeah.
could one Albuquerque as a marketing campaign with the color that relates to the transit department also maybe market cool routes? Sure. Like, how do we use the routes that connect our city to also market ourselves and the cool things to do?
Right.
Someone said the Rail Runner.
Hey, wait, like, I want to jump on that. Homeboy saying the Rail Runner, you're a real one. Because the Rail Runner is really smart. And the Rail
Yeah.
Runner...
And it's
original, yeah, the original intention of the Rail Runner would have been incredible because the original idea was to connect El Paso / Juarez
right.
to Denver,
Yes.
and then seeing if other states were interested in cooperating further north.
Sure.
Like having an interstate rail like that that's accessible and affordable.
That's a great idea. It's very European.
Sure. The problem is that we had a governor who was terming out, and then we had a candidate running against that, or running explicitly against the Rail Runner as another boondoggle and a cronyist public project.
Which
And
it's
this is-
not.
Which it's not. Well, I actually don't know the history well enough to say that, but like I believe it's not. And
It loses a lot of money.
sure, but also like hard to tease that out because when you also cut services down to a point where
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to use the Rail
Right.
Runner, how am I supposed to make that choice? Like,
Right.
if it doesn't run at prime times or enough times,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
not going to choose it.
I was really hoping that it would go all the way to Las Vegas
Dude, yeah.
because
Yeah.
I have family there.
yeah.
Well,
It would have been great.
I love the Rail Runner.
I have some definite like ideas for the Rail Runner.
Right.
I mean, if we're gonna go off on that one, I mean,
Sure.
we could really literally go off on all kinds of shit.
Yeah, for sure.
My thing with the Rail Runner is like, it's really big for people who are
Commuters.
commuting. So when you go to get on the Rail Runner, if you're commuting in the morning, you can't tell me that if someone was riding a cart up and down the aisle selling coffee and like Danishes and all that shit, you would not buy that shit every once in a while.
Hey, that's true.
And I mean, if you want to recoup some of that money, I mean, there's no advertisements inside that thing whatsoever. There's no TVs in there running advertisement whatsoever. I mean, it can make money,
Right.
but I don't feel like they're putting that effort into it.
And also cool for just like, yeah, like totally agree with that. Incredible to think that we haven't done those things. Like, really wow. But also, Railroad does cool things that people don't know about. Like, there's Shakespeare on the rail.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like
super fun.
Yeah, you can see performances while you ride. And now the Rail Runner has fucking Wi-Fi.
good.
Yeah.
What? So sick.
You know
think
what?
they-
We should have comedy on the Rail
They
Runner.
should. They should also do
Is
a.
that a
They
joke?
should do a booze trip. They should do a booze trip.
They should.
Wow. And I mean, like, I hope public spaces get more flexible and fun like that. I mean, you had brought up this rate of change, Chris, earlier, and this idea of like slow-moving government. And you had
Yeah.
attributed to a lack of communication, and like,
It is totally though.
sure, and like, and I think there are some other like philosophical points people would argue about, like whatever it could do if it moved faster.
They're saying there are ads in there now. Good.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Shouts out, everyone. Thank you
Okay.
for that information. This is
All
what we
right, yeah,
crowdsource
yeah.
news.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're all horrible.
Is there fucking coffee and muffins? No.
Probably not a
Actually, you're
food cart
the
yet.
politician here, Gus. You can be like, can we fact check that right now?
Can we just is 538 listening? What is it called? 358?
Right,
385? But the idea you brought about small moving government is slow moving government is interesting to me because like we have to think about what the pace of government is relative to the rest of the community and the change we
Sure.
require. And when we think about the advent of like big tech and like internet and
Right.
digital infrastructure, like we're no longer slow. We're like stagnant. And I
Right.
think that an accelerated rate of change is required based off of the times we live in. Like we can't sit around and like, and I think this maybe attaches to the disenfranchisement of people not believing that things are happening in government.
Right.
Like you want a better app, you should be able to get a better app pretty quickly.
Yes.
Just like that. That's totally me
Right.
talking there. I don't know, but like that's how I feel about that.
Right. Well,
Right.
here's okay. Here's the issue I feel. And I have studied poli sci, and I have studied. The biggest thing has communication is a huge deal, but the other bigger deal is the phrase called follow through. And let me tell you, if you download the One Albuquerque app and you go look at this fucking pothole, well, if 3 months later the fucking pothole's still there,
Right.
fuck this app. Who cares? Delete it. I don't know why I have that in my storage.
Yeah.
Everything is about follow through.
Have you experienced that on that app?
No,
Because I want to like shouts out.
I'm not. And
I submitted a needle. The needle was gone within 4 days.
I was not calling them out specifically.
Sure.
I'm
Feel
just giving an example. So the technology is great. The ideas are great. So if you would have won and you got into office, if you would have done something, or you would have said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do," and then you didn't do it, the follow through is the answer.
Yeah.
If politicians come in and they don't do what they say, then that's not the person that you want. Or if they come in but follow through can also be the answer on the opposite end. We had a governor that came in and she's like, you know what? I don't like the fucking movie industry. My follow through is I'm going to fuck these people over. And,
Behavioral health? Never mind.
Yeah.
Boosh.
Yes.
and that was the follow through there. So the follow through is what you have to key on. People can say whatever they want. I could say, hey, I'm going to run for mayor, and everybody gets $100,000, and then I can win, and then everybody's like, "Where's my $100,000?"
Well,
and
and
I'm
I
like,
think-
I don't know.
I think you make a valid point because I believe that our generation feel like our voices aren't heard because we have
Right.
so many politicians who we vote for and we like their platform and we like what they're saying, but they don't follow through. They're doing
Right.
that to get the vote, or that's how it seems, and there's no communication as to why they're not following through. So then by the time you get to our generation, it's like, well, fuck that. Why should I vote?
Right. And two, I think, specific points related to those concepts is, first of all, like, don't be so attached to the individuals that hold office. And,
No.
like, don't be so attached to them as political figures. Like,
Right.
political figures are community members. And, like, I don't, maybe I'm, like, misciting history here. Like, I wasn't, like, a history major. But, like, as far as I understand it, in the Greek philosophy of democratic republics, whatever that means, is that, like, it's an obligation to serve.
Yeah.
And like
Right.
you're kind of like, damn, I was doing this other thing, but like I guess I have to step up to this responsibility, and I'm
Yes.
going to do it, and then I'm going to go back to whatever it was I was doing because I liked that too. And like we should expect that more from community members, and like
Yes.
have like incumbency doesn't seem to have helped us right now.
Well, and I mean, sadly about the Greek thing that you're saying, that was the idea,
Yeah,
and it's always the idea.
sure.
But then, of course, the corruption came in
Right.
and the bribery and
Power's
whatever.
weird, right.
And that's what
Right.
destroyed Rome.
Right.
This was,
This is what when I hand you a check for $100,000.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Gus,
like, I'm
you
not
got-
running again, dog. That doesn't mean anything
Hey,
to me.
you got to get this podcast initiative through, brother.
You're like, who has the power now?
Right.
Yeah.
And like neuroscience, and so like this is I really like neuroscience. I was about to say like I study neuroscience, but like I don't have a PhD. Don't listen to me. But like I know there are studies currently, like scientific
Yes.
studies on on how power changes your brain pathways.
Oh well,
Yes.
yeah.
And like that's like worth noting because
Yes.
I can tell you as like an interpersonal experience, like it was weird. Like there's a come down, there's a change, and there's like real work you have to do to try and reset yourself into like the community to be like, hold on, I ran and that was important, and I appreciate the work I put into that, and I appreciate the people that cared, but like I have to come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to remember that like I'm only as good as the work I put in, and like I don't get the responsibilities I asked for. And even though I wish that I had those responsibilities and I wish I had resources to execute on those responsibilities, like those are not mine at this time.
Right.
That's
And
Chris right now,
I will come
actually.
down.
He's pretty much on the high for the last 8 years. Like, I'm the mayor of Albuquerque. Give me
Downtown.
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 Some cities have mayors of nightlifes in downtown. It's a thing that happens that explicitly work on programming in these events to try and bring out
Oh,
civic engagement.
no,
I do nothing to help
Go,
or
go,
Yeah,
go,
well-
go to downtown with Chris and be like, he's good. And I'm
my
like,
gosh.
I guess I'm good.
You're only the mayor of downtown when Sister Bar doesn't ID you.
That happens.
It happens.
Oh my God, you're the mayor of downtown.
Yeah.
No, I do this thing where like I'm like, let's go to this thing over here, and Billy's like, it costs to get in. I'm like, nah, you're good.
The thing is, like,
He's
I'm
with
s-
me, and they're like, okay.
It's bizarre.
It's really bizarre. So
Oh.
basically, your neurological argument is basically with Chris right now
Yeah.
in downtown.
You see-
Freaking sociopath, dude! Look at you, sipping Tecate, wondering who you're gonna murder
But
now.
also, I have a
know.
question, not on the chat, But it was one of my questions to actually
That's Chris.
transcend like your ideas within the community of Albuquerque to national, and also when you come into DC to visit Shelby and I.
Yeah, those are good questions.
I would love to go out to DC to visit you and Shelby. I had the real privilege to visit the United States Conference of Mayors a couple years back, and I learned a lot there. And it was super eye opening to see everything that went on there, and that's like maybe a different conversation. So I'm not like infatuated with DC, but I'm curious, and so I'll gladly visit you. I think the Renwick Gallery is my favorite, and DC needs better coffee is my hot take of the day.
Thank you. And
better beer.
also,
hot take.
they need less Chipotles.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
There seem to be a lot of CVS's too, if I'm remembering Shelby's post correctly. Was that 30 today, Shelby? Shouts out to you.
Who's
You're a hero.
I love.
They said
Shelby.
Burnett
Same.
/ Smith for mayor downtown 2020.
I'd vote that way.
Yeah.
I would
Who's the
vote.
Smith?
I don't know.
Brandon Smith? Maybe.
So last night.
Sabrina probably.
Speaking of downtown things, this has nothing to do with politics or Chris being the mayor of downtown.
I was not there.
Okay.
I was there.
There was a party. Well, we were downtown. You did not go with me to this 90s party, and you missed a shit show.
I heard. So wait. Back up. So there was a 90s party at Inside Out.
Yep.
And Silky.
Silky
Silky Smooth?
Silky.
Yeah. No.
No.
Let's sang the song.
I don't know.
Everybody.
She was just featured on a lot of things.
I heard
anyway,
it was bad.
It was so bad. So we go there after we went to Barney's thing, and oh my god, I'm so glad I did not pay the $30 to go in.
That's how much it cost.
$30?
$30 at the door.
Isn't that like rent for a month in Albuquerque? Just kidding. That's a
I
joke.
wish. But so I believe it was $30. I don't remember, but I wouldn't have paid $1. Really,
It looked
to
bad.
see it. So this lady performed with Tupac and Eazy-E and all this stuff, and that's great. That's fine. I celebrate your
She's a grandma, right?
accomplishments.
She said it on
Yes.
stage.
So I celebrate her accomplishments, and I don't like to tear other women down.
Shouts out.
However,
Oh.
Whoa, the butt came in. Back it
however,
up.
if you have had all those accomplishments and you get all these people who come to support you and are excited to see you, you should perform, first of all, for more than like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Second of all, don't make everybody who works there feel like crap
That's true of any place you work for.
Yeah.
anywhere.
FYI.
Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Don't make people feel like crap. But also, nobody is more important than anybody else. You are
Nope.
not above
True.
anyone. And also, you were wearing spandex. So,
Well,
spandex are fine.
yeah, I was
but
about to say, well,
I was just kind of like, come on, lady. Like, you're being kind of a jerk. So, she gets on stage. First of all, like, the sound guy, you could tell he was just stressed out because sound is hard.
true.
And he had dealt
Magicians.
with, like, not normal. He had dealt with, like, local rappers and stuff. First of all, they were not singing 90s anything, which hurt my soul.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a 90s party, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be a 90s party. They were not. They were mumble rapping, which is fine. They were
Okay.
great. The local talent was great, albeit a little loud. But
Sounds like you just described Third Eye Blind.
so she finally like gets out on stage. Everybody's super excited, and she like talks about Tupac and Easy. She like does her little tiny parts that were in those songs. But
What?
before she could get to that, she stepped on the mic cord. She couldn't start on time. The like sound guy had to just sit there and kind of babysit it. A guy who works there told me that he felt like the whole night was like a really bad house party that just went
gosh.
awry. And I
We've all had
felt it, but I did enjoy people watching.
What's funny about that is like you talk about this like that, and then when I went to see Ice Cube, people were just like shitting all over me to go see Ice Cube. They're like, "Oh, is this the Are We There Yet
But he
tour?"
was so professional.
Oh my god, he was fucking amazing.
Sick burn.
He's amazing.
Sick burn though, right? and yeah.
I was not impressed with that lady. I was not impressed,
Well,
Silky.
So what are you gonna do about this, Gus?
Do about what? Professional musicians in Albuquerque?
Yeah, can you
Yeah.
fix that?
Like,
Fix it.
I can't fix it because I don't know anything about that. But like,
Oh, great.
what I can tell you is that there's this thing called like Sunday Chatter, which I'm a big fan of. It used to be called Church of Beethoven. It's in
Oh,
Las
I've heard of
Puertas,
this.
just across from
Yes,
Dialogue.
yes.
And like, yo, as far as like seeing professional musicians that blow your mind every single day, like that's the go-to. It's on Sunday
Yes.
mornings. So if like
Yeah.
you're the person that goes out Saturday night and you're like, man, I hate waking up on Sunday mornings, but I also hate myself if I don't wake up at a reasonable time on Sunday mornings.
The same.
This is the event because it starts at 10:30. And then
Nice.
it goes to 11:30, easy hour, which puts you straight in the brunch period, or when breweries are now open in Albuquerque.
Oh,
Yes.
And where's this at?
It's at Las Puertas, so on First Street and Mountain About, just across from Dialogue Brewery.
Oh.
Free espresso, free baked goods. If you're under 30,
Oh,
the tickets are
Is that what's
$9.
going on? Okay. So
Yeah.
today, this morning, they were
Yep,
crossed.
that's it. And so one of my favorite cellists who performs there, her name is Laura Metcalf. She used to perform with Nas. Yeah,
Seen her,
yeah, like
Seen her before, yeah.
did Nas all over the world, did the international tour for the Illmatic
Travel
tour.
with Nas? Damn.
Yeah, dude. And like and also you have incredible musicians who are local, who are international, who choose to come here to like play in this incredible environment, and it's an hour. Also has local spoken word poets, which are beautiful. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Super
Ooh,
affordable, super
that
great.
sounds great.
So
I'm gonna go.
that brings me to another thing.
It brings me to this. Please explain your thing.
I will be
Oh,
right back.
so here's what I hate,
doing it now.
and here if people really want to understand, and they want to fix things in their community. Do you need a beer?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh.
Take this.
We're switching to the champagne.
Okay. So here's one thing about Albuquerque, and Albuquerqueans, and I guarantee it's a thing that happens in a lot of cities. Like it happens in Cincinnati, it happens in Cleveland, it happens everywhere. Is you get these people who are like,
These people.
you know what I don't like about this city is there's nothing to do.
Right.
And
Bullshit.
I'm going to point something out. There isn't anything to do because you're not finding it. And I will say this about Albuquerque: it is hard at first. Once you get in the pipeline, though, you are overwhelmed by how much
True.
stuff there is to do.
Right, especially because it's so affordable and accessible.
Absolutely.
Like most of it's free.
First of all, if you live in a major city and you don't know what First Fridays are, I bring this up all the time, and I go, well, I'm going to go to First Fridays this weekend, and it's the first Friday of every month, and people all the time go, what's that? Hell, I went to First Fridays in Las Vegas
Yeah.
when I was there. First Fridays is there's going to be a spot in your town, and if your town doesn't have it, start it. It's pretty much like an art walk. Artists will set up their art at a gallery, a coffee shop, a brewery, and the opening will be the first Friday of the month. And a lot of cities will connect them, and like you'll go to a place and you get a map, and it'll show you all the different places you can just walk to and see
Totally.
art. And you'll be amazed by how many different things you're going to be like blown away by.
Sure.
The funny thing was the one in Las Vegas, Nevada. I actually hadn't talked about this on the show. Is I went to First Friday there, and it was a very state fair kind of thing. Like they had like 20 food trucks, they had turkey legs, and there was galleries, but there was people out in the street just selling art. And I mean that's a big thing. Get involved in your community, and you'll be shocked at how many things, like how much there is to do.
Right.
Galleries,
Yes.
zoos, going to the zoo to watch a band. Local, like first of all, if you've never gone to see a local band in your town,
Please do.
fuck you.
If you haven't
That's
seen
terrible.
local comedy in your town, fuck you.
Correct.
Billy.
Oh, hey guys, it's your boy Billy Belmont.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say if you haven't seen.
I don't care
Fair,
if you
fair.
see me.
Yeah.
Don't look at me. The thing is,
Don't look at me.
our entire setup at Tindergram, I've been in the show for what, like 9 years, 8 years,
Something like that.
I'm not even that old.
and so, like, it was one of those things where I would see my face on the like green screens. Like my head's shiny. People don't need to see me.
He looks like a purple-headed wiener.
Yeah, exactly.
I disagree thoroughly, but
I think you're adorable.
I think you're hot.
I'm gonna put up a picture of you now
Ooh.
just to show.
So-
this
so
is
Gus.
Billy talking.
There are some rudimentary questions we have to ask you. So, what was your first beer?
Oh,
These are all good questions.
I
That's
love
a good
these
question.
questions.
I'm sure that like my very first beer was like some throwaway beer, like
Coors Light.
Like, no, Coors Banquet has a lot of like big pull in my world. But I'm not sure if that was my first beer. But like the beer that changed my life was actually, and it's funny that I'm working at Marble now, was Marble's Oatmeal Stout.
Okay.
And it was the first beer I had that I was like, yo, like I could drink this.
And it gets me drunk.
That's true of most fucking
It'll get
Marble
you
beers.
drunk.
Holy crap! You're like,
Because what I want to think of, especially someone at your age, it's like, okay, this is objectively, like, beer kind of tastes gross sometimes. For a young kid, it's not Kool-Aid, it's not Crystal Light, it's not freaking, like Ara Pops.
Capri Sun.
Capri Sun.
It's
not Capri Sun.
I mean,
so,
we know this because my 3-year-old, her dad's a brewer. She won't even taste beer. She's like, it's not an Otter Pop. I'm not gonna taste it.
Exactly. So with Gus Pedrotty at 22, like having his first beer.
Yeah, I had my first beer at 22. Everyone knows.
Totally true. And so he's like, oh my god, this is not Otter Pop. So oatmeal stout Marble is my shit now. I guess.
The first alcoholic beverage I ever tried was Scotch, and that was wild. But
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
You went right
whole-
for it. So I know where Billy's going on this. So the second question, what is the first concert you ever went to?
This one's embarrassing as hell.
Yeah.
First concert I went to was the Counting Crows and the Fray.
Oh, you know
That
what?
shit-
That's
Dude, everyone knows that I'm in over my head. Like I'm
this.
saying,
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, we're with former mayoral candidate
just bury me.
Gus Pedrotty.
Although
And he loves the Counting Crows.
Yeah, wow.
Hey, the
actually,
Fray
the
Don't
Fray.
even be
I
embarrassed about it. The phrase out of
love the
Denver.
Fray.
And I love the Fray because of actually I learned about them through the Grey's Anatomy soundtrack, which I remember
Did
watching.
you just become best friends?
We probably did. I remember watching the pilot episode of Grey's Anatomy
Yes.
when I was in 4th grade. I'll just like let that linger,
Wow,
and
I
then
feel old.
watching the Fray gave me this like coupon in
very
like Live
powerful
Journal or whatever
band.
the hell it was. It wasn't Live Journal. It was like Ticketmaster, but like. TBT Live Journal, but I got to see Maroon 5 the next month for $5, and this is like
Yes.
2007. And turns out, cool side story, so what's that guy's name in Maroon 5? Adam Levine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Adam
that guy.
Levine, yes.
He was taught by the sibling of a math teacher in Albuquerque in math,
What?
who totally is the reason why that guy got a degree in high school. And he like
Great.
shouted him out on stage. He was like, "Hey, to my math teacher from high school, I know you live here now, and I appreciate you." And it was like,
Aw.
what?
Well, that's
So,
kind of nice.
It was
So-
very nice.
We got a question from the chat again. If Gus was mayor, would he bring back Edgefest?
Oh, this is important.
Edgefest forever.
Yes.
It's all bad. I didn't know it
So,
went away.
are you a Grey's Anatomy fan?
Oh, yes. Well, so this is the hard thing. Grey's Anatomy was on for so long. There are so many contradictions in the
Yes,
series now. Like,
yes.
I don't know how to get down with the Mercy West merger.
Oh,
because
I am. You know what? Okay. Sorry, guys. You guys talked
Welcome
about.
to Grey's Anatomy
Hey,
podcast.
you guys talked about Tony Hawk earlier. Just
Tony
let me
Hawk.
have this one. I didn't
I heard
even
the question
Jim
about
Halpert you.
Edgefest, and I actually gonna elaborate on it later, but please, Grey's Anatomy, tell me.
I didn't even Jim Halpert
I
this
thought
time.
it was Grapes Anatomy. I'm totally off on that.
that's the Fruit of the Loom version.
That's it's done with grapes and apples and stuff. It's really cute. So, here's the thing. I thought it was going to be over when, spoiler alert, Derek Shepherd
What?
died.
I have no idea who that is.
But what got me to be like, okay, I'm into this, is how Meredith Grey pulled herself up by her bootstraps and was like, I can do this on my own.
Wait a minute. There's a person actually named Gray on the show.
Yes,
Well, yeah,
that's why it's
come on.
Grey's
I have no
Anatomy.
idea.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
embarrassing for everyone.
I'm embarrassed
I'm
for
sorry.
myself.
Ten Drink Nation, I'm sorry for Chris. He is.
Guys, I'm
he,
sorry.
He does not know what he does.
Somebody should impeach him as mayor of downtown. I don't know that
I
process.
think
but
we're a TV show
Yeah.
downtown.
Holly for mayor.
Of a TV show?
Come on. Ellen Pompeo's a queen.
She is amazing.
Yeah. One time I called Jackie, Tony, and Donnie in the morning to talk about my love for
I love fucking Donnie.
Me too.
Me
Donnie
Yeah,
is
fuck
my
yeah.
dude. I think
So cool.
they would be nothing without Donnie.
It's
No.
true. He's a centerpiece.
He's so cute.
But I called them and I was like back then I was like, I watch Grey's Anatomy. It's great. And they were like, I remember this. Jackie started screaming at me. She was like, you can't watch it. Like, you're too young. Like, They were doing tiddlywinks behind that door. I don't know why she said tiddlywinks as a euphemism for sex, but she screamed that on the radio, and it's ingrained in my
wow.
memory.
And it's early in the morning too, so you called.
It was like before school.
oh
I'm a
shit.
risky boy.
Risky.
This
But
is
Donnie is the only reason like Albuquerque like morning radio still exists.
I didn't even know that
Because
show was
like
still on.
even Buck and Dex doesn't exist anymore.
No.
It's Jackie, Tony, and Donnie now.
What about Erica Viking? Is that still around?
That's after
yeah.
that's late afternoon.
And
Shouts out Leah
she's-
Black.
Leah Black.
Ooh, Leah Black.
Dang, you're pulling out some of those like references.
All I'm saying is we should watch Grey's Anatomy together.
I would love that. O'Malley for life, and also
Yes.
Burke deserved to get kicked off the show.
Yes, loved it.
Interesting.
So Chris, this is not for you, Chris.
Okay.
That was.
I am
I'll
for you.
just
I know he's a real fan now because he said that.
I'll just connect to my pod and zone out.
So okay, so Gus, speaking of just
Grey's Anatomy?
kind of not even Grey's
We
Anatomy,
could talk about it for hours.
just out of your your presence in Albuquerque. Do you get recognized a lot? Do you get perks just
Yeah.
from being recognized?
No. I mean, like, I don't would have to dig into what perks means, but like the perk of like being felt by a community and like feeling seen is
no,
really
do you
beautiful.
get free drinks? Is what
No,
I'm
I don't
asking.
get free drinks.
Oh.
That sucks, dude.
It's fine. Like we all pay for our things, I guess. Not for running for mayor. I'm
No?
at a lot of bars a lot of the time, and I have great friends that I appreciate.
Ah.
But like, it is nice when people truly choose to say hey and they remember, because paying attention to local elections means you're like the MVP.
Oh yeah.
It's not me running. It's the people that care enough, especially young people that care enough to look and show up and have an opinion and have an informed opinion and like do something.
Yeah.
That like legitimately like change my life every time they say hi. Because it's really easy for me to like just like make that another memory worth repressing. And every time someone says like it matters, it like brings it to life in a way that it never could have been while I was running, and make sure that I know that like it's meaningful to try moving forward. And I appreciate those people a lot.
That's
What is one thing that Albuquerque has that is underrated and people have no idea about?
Gut reaction is the Sandias. And like, I know that might be like a weird, like, maybe that's a cop out, but like I've met people in their 20s who are like, yeah, I've never been to the Crest. And I just want to like, I want to put my head under a fucking art
They've
bus that
never
doesn't
been
exist.
on the tram.
Like,
They've never been to the crest. They've never hiked the trails.
I'm
It's
literally,
crazy.
I'm texting
Well-
my friend and we're going to the mountains tonight because I just need to go be in the mountains.
Well, you've got to do the crest in the daytime. You got to do the crest
all
in
the
the
time.
nighttime.
All the time.
all
You
the
should
time.
can.
Do both.
Yeah. And like, dear God, like there are so few places in the world that can claim they're a major urban center, and they are 30 minutes from that type of like wilderness.
Yeah, a mountain range.
Yeah, and like the Sandias are so significant. Like we come out of this rift valley that makes us like one of 4 like geographical or
Yes.
geological features in the world. We have this gorgeous granite slab. Like, have fun with it. And like, if you're
It's
not
so
outdoorsy,
beautiful.
cool, go to Gravity Park.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful.
Gravity Park does not pay me.
So what were your like biggest like social outings as a kid in Albuquerque? Was were you here for the beach? Were you here for
yeah, I
like
was definitely for the beach.
Roller King?
Sure. Roller King, definitely. Like, I feel like our icons are probably the same, honestly. I was definitely on the closing tail end of them, but
Yeah.
like, I was just tall enough to have ridden the big slides a couple times when
At
the
Cliffs?
beach closed.
Oh.
Beach.
At the beach, I remember that. Yeah.
Don't do that to me. Don't bring up cliffs like that.
That's
That's a little weird, dude. Like,
Son of a
okay.
bitch.
Yeah, like Galaxy was the best ride at the beach, obviously.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Favorite. Other significant things in my life, honestly, this is going to sound super nerdy. My elementary school put on this yearly Halloween carnival, and there was a haunted house in it. And me and my
Oh.
friends would always go back to build the haunted house. And then in
Awesome.
college, we built two really fun haunted
Built
houses.
as like brick and mortar, like you had like drills in hand.
I would call it more fabricate. We would like frame and hang a lot of black plastic and like prop settings and like build different rooms. And so if you ever have a chance to go to the Bandelier Elementary School haunted house, I would love to go with you,
wow.
first of all.
We're
Yes.
going. We're
okay,
going.
this winter or
Not allowed
fall,
to
we're
go to
going.
elementary schools.
Yes.
Chris is
I
not
know that's a
allowed,
joke.
actually.
But
I
I'd love to go
wanna
with you.
go.
That's like a literal treasure of
Yeah.
an experience
Is
of
it
mine.
kid
now.
like little
Yes,
little kid
it's for
friendly?
elementary schoolers. I wasn't brave enough to go through it until I was in 4th grade with my dad.
Oh,
It's,
so
it's that scary.
yeah.
It was pretty spooky. Spooky.
So we got another. This is from Chris Fortson again. He's actually like been the all-star of the chat. I'm going to say this right now.
He is actually the forefront spokesperson for
For-
Albuquerque, like solar
What's the
infrastructure.
Solar, well, he works for one of the solar companies in town.
Thank you for doing good work, Chris.
And he wrote, if you were asked to have been on the administration after you lost, what position would you have wanted? That's a really good question, actually.
That is a good
Arts,
question. And like,
arts.
I appreciate you asking the question of if. I'm trying to think of where I would have wanted to go. I think the answer is like related to where you could have impact. And if I could choose anywhere to have impact, as far as like, right, so the campaign goes on, everyone's ideas and platforms kind of merge a little bit. So like we even got candidates to admit that distributive models were better for like behavioral health initiatives. Whether or not they follow through on that is a different question.
Follow through.
Follow through is important, as Chris noted. The one thing that no one else was touching on that I wish I could have had a finger in was honestly the development of biotech in Albuquerque. Because,
Oh, wow.
So like, I'm somebody who's really down with the arts in Albuquerque. Like, I go to Chatter every single week. Like, I was a theater kid in high school as a band kid. I still play in a band. I do
Nerd.
community theater. Like, I am literally a nerd, and I love it. And I love the people I've met along the way to pieces. And people are always like, oh, technology, like, that's some, like, dumbass ivory tower white privilege shit. And you're like, on
No.
one hand, yes, but at the same time, like,
Great
it's also the
equalizer.
history of the Southwest. Like,
Yes.
we fucking learned how to make insulated goddamn buildings that worked in our climate, and we made it happen.
Yes.
Like, we are innovators. We have always been innovators, and we are, like, so inspiring in so many ways about how we chose to use the resources available to us to make our next thing happen, whatever it was. And, like, that history isn't always nice and pretty and clean. Like, shit, New Mexico made the nuke. Like, that's scary
Yeah,
as
of
hell and
Yeah.
has so many horrible effects. But, like, we have changed the world so many times based off of technology that, like, we can do it again, and we can do it with different ethics. And, like, biotech is the next step for us, but I think how we already invest so much public dollars into our Division I research institutions, the incredible scientists we have there who are doing great work. And I wish I could have steered economic development into a very education-focused epicenter in this city, so that it's not just like outside investors coming in and grabbing stuff and like using our intellectual property. It's us choosing to finally develop the intellectual property we've already invested in as a state and as a community, and that keeps people here and keeps people excited about where we are. Like, I'm still stoked on that. I think there's a future for it, and I hope in the future somebody picks it up and really does something innovative with what it means to develop things publicly. Like, if a city were to produce a vaccine, right? If a city were to own a vaccine, not for profit margin, like we're not going to like jack up the price like insulin, and the people
Right.
that invented insulin did it for a fucking $1 because they didn't want to see it price
Right.
gouged.
And then it got gouged.
Right. If we did it publicly and had domain over it and we just licensed it at a reasonable fee, that would still maybe be a bigger tax base than we could imagine off of like an
Yes.
income tax.
Yeah.
And it would still be like the most affordable option for healthcare. And I'm willing to bet on doing the work to see those results through. And I hope someone else is willing to do that too.
Well,
And I'm still
That's
kind
awesome.
of like pretty clouded as far as information goes, how city healthcare works with the state versus the national, like even
I don't think there really is a city healthcare.
No, there's
No.
there's not a city healthcare
I
for
know
sure.
what
So
you're talking
I'm
about,
talking
yeah.
about if the state, right? So like the state funds all of this research for the university, right? Like the
Right.
state funds the university, and there are federal grants that come in, but researchers do that work and own the intellectual property. And so then there's this thing called like STC at the university, Science Technology C. And it's about like spinning out that technology, right? We have these labs, we have the university.
Right.
How do we make that science have impact in our community? And it's not always clear, and it's always kind of a gamble. But when that gamble hits, it's worth the world, because New Mexico has literally changed the world with science multiple times over.
Yeah.
with Alzheimer's now.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's nanotechnology. There's a lot of different things. One thing that people don't really, what I really hate to see, and being a guy who's an IT professional, what I really hate is when people don't grasp the power of technology. And the biggest one, social media. Dude, you can be poor. You can be rich. You can be middle class. Mm-hmm. Fucking internet is the great equalizer. It has equalized everything. And the one thing that we have to fight against is the federal government censoring the internet. The internet needs to be open and honest because they want to censor it. You know why? Because the internet's the one place that people call them the fuck out and go in and say, hey, wait a minute. Does everybody know about this thing that's fucking happening? Boom, look at this. And then they post it, and they don't want you to do that. So always watch, because they'll have one hand over here, and they're doing this over here. And one thing they want to stifle is this.
Right.
They want to shut this down. And this is the one fucking thing that if you're poor, you can come in and make a difference. You can just bam, with little effort.
Sure. I mean, I think, and this isn't to flex or toot my own horn, but I think the mayoral campaign was a clear indicator of that. And this was right before Facebook underwent some massive algorithm changes based off the 2016 election.
They have.
Yeah, they have. We ran our entire campaign on $17,000 to win the mayoral election. It was about $1.2 million.
Right.
And so
that's fucking exactly
right. We had
a
massive outsized impact for the dollars we had because of social media and because organic reach was still so strong on social media. It was because the community chose to discuss and share the videos we were putting out and the ideas we were putting out that had any impact.
It reached me.
That's insane. Yeah.
You.
Billy, I'm so glad I know you now, but I certainly didn't know you then.
We knew who you were.
I was actually. Was it Hyder Park? You had that. Was it Hyder Park?
Which topic?
No, it was one of your events.
Yeah, what he's saying.
We
Which
rotated
one?
around. Yeah.
He would move around. Yeah.
So I think it was Hyder Park.
We did one at Baton. Baton was education.
Baton, yes, the one by the Walgreens.
Yes,
I'm giving the wrong geographic information.
No, Hyder and Baton are loosely related, which is why we should look at district lines, because if those are loosely related in your mind, maybe they're related in council districts. Just saying.
Yeah.
Did you go to that, Billy?
I did.
Thank you.
So here's what I'm really trying to say. If you would have done this show before, you'd have won. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
10 drink
Just
minimum
for
kingmakers.
president.
You'd have got 4 more
No one
thousand
wants that
votes.
job.
Nobody wants that job.
So
You're right. Nobody.
a real question I really want to fucking ask. In hindsight, I mean, life is hindsight.
Sure.
Would you really want to be the mayor?
Yes, easily. And that's not to say that I don't recognize how many new variables have come across in this administration, and how much I respect the problem solving that has to go on, and how really there is no planning in a city
Right.
as dynamic as Albuquerque, especially coming from the last administration. It's all emergent. You have to do your best with the variables given, but I hope that the plans that I put forward and the ways that I communicated them to the public instilled a faith, if not a trust, in my ability to deal with all the other problems that the city would face. And I cherish all the things that the campaign let me know, all the people it allowed me to meet, Jesus, shaking 7,000 hands in a single day.
Oh, they say shaking all those babies.
Dude, that was insane. Shake the babies. Shake the babies,
hands.
kick the hands. Kick the hands, question mark?
I would just.
It's me at the dojo. Check me out. Yeah, I care deeply about the solutions we put forward. I think that they have a place in the future of Albuquerque. And there's no other team I'd rather go to bat for and ruin my life over than Albuquerque.
Now that's a slogan.
So that's the best quote.
That's an idea right there.
I would just love your protege to be like, Gus, we need you back in the game, and you're sitting there
hey man, I'm out. I ain't doing it no more.
And the thing is, man,
Turn my badge, my gun in.
I gave that shit up, man. I can't. Gus, we need you back.
We need everyone else. Gus sucks.
No. I see. In 20 years, I'll be 64 years old.
Wow.
You will be my age. And I think within that time, you're probably going to be the mayor or more. I don't know.
You're going to be the
it's up
president.
to you, but I mean, you have the tools Like you've come on this show, and I've studied politics my entire life because of my family. My family is very political, and you've got what it takes. And I think that people are like when I said you were going to be on the show, I posted a couple, earlier this week. People really responded to it. And they're like, man, I really want to hear this, and I want to hear what he has to say. Because I think you connected with a lot of people with your organic growth and with,
It's going to be hard for him because there's like on different parties. Like, okay, so if you're running with you're
going to do something.
Very conservative, very like bureaucratic way of doing it, then you'll probably win. But on his side of the spectrum, it's going to be a fucking lot of grassroots shit.
Thanks, Chris.
Aww.
I would vote for you again.
Are we all
sure.
emotional now? Is this
Kind of like this is a lot.
No,
for me.
because basically, like in Washington, there is basically like a pretty much capitalistic we have the money here to do this for our candidates. Mm-hmm. But on our side,
we don't want to do that because it's going to affect this.
It's a lot of fucking work.
Sure.
Now look, I don't want to put any pressure on you,
but run.
I'm
just kidding.
For me, what I hope is that you continue to talk about. I never need you to run for mayor again.
No, you don't do anything you don't want to do.
But what I do need you to do is to keep talking about the fact that we can make change.
Yes.
We can. It's
we can
not
do that.
New Mexico. It's not New Mexican.
100%.
It is
I like
Mexican. And I really, really wish that you would talk to more people, especially younger people, about how important it is to vote, how important it is to see a change that can happen, have a dream, make it happen, and that nobody is restricted to not pursuing what they think is right or what they think needs to happen.
Sure.
So I don't need you to run for mayor, but
Right.
I need you to keep talking about why you ran for mayor because that's important.
Keeping that dialogue going.
Hold on. I want to talk about how she just fucking nailed the real slogan that should be out there. It's New Mexican, not New Mexicant. That should be the slogan. That you can relate to.
Sure. Everyone's felt that. We decided to still that. Our slogan was, it's about making a future you just have to stay for, because of the brain drain, which is a little bit less accessible, but we felt it.
No.
But
New Mexican, not New Mexican.
I'm saying it's pandering to the people. Like, I don't know your platform really.
Well,
I'm listening to all your arguments, but honestly, can I have a beer with this guy?
Yes.
Wait, that's like the wrong thought to have, and I feel like in my generation that came up with like the George W. Bush thing, where George W. Bush was like the candidate you wanted to have a beer with because he was like a chill dude.
I think it's still the same way with
Right.
Bill Clinton's not the same way.
current
Sure.
administration.
And Barack Obama was the same way as well.
But how do we get past that is the next question, because I don't know about you, but I have beers with a lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot
not
of
all
weird
great.
people, and they're all great, but how we as a
know
community
that.
honestly discern who we need is a very hard topic, and
what I can't fathom is pretty much a month into the election is people going into MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, be I'm still undecided. Are you fucking
Who are these
serious?
people? Yeah, that's bullshit.
That's fucking bullshit.
So we're kind of at the end of the show, and I want to kind of bring up one other thing. And, you can say what you want on it. You don't have to say anything. I think one thing that Albuquerque, and this is from my perspective, has an issue of that needs to be fixed is we need to figure out if we want to stay with the negative connotations of our city or if we want to move forward and try to push those aside. And when I say that, so I went to the United game. You're a big United fan.
Yes, sir.
And whenever the Portland game came, and were you at that game?
Yep.
And the guy came around and he taunted the crowd, and the crowd showered beer on him. And I actually left the forums of the New Mexico United. I actually quit because there was so many people that were like, "Well, that's what happens when you fuck with Albuquerque."
Interesting.
And I mean, is that right? I mean, are we the gangster community? Are we the don't fuck with Burke? Are we the Is that what we really want to represent the nation? And
it kind of seems like the
and I mean,
lexicon right
I feel
now.
like we're at that precipice that we're to the point where it's should we move forward and away from that?
So, and I remember that game explicitly, and a huge United fan. I've traveled a couple times to see the games.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Nerd.
watching us like at away games is really compelling too, because so many
Yes.
people choose to travel that it's like we drown out other USL teams at their
Yes.
home turf, and it's like, yo, we're so legit, and our players are
we
so
drowned
cool.
it out of MSL team.
Yeah,
Denver.
yeah, it was seriously, and like shouts out all the United players that have played for the Lobos and know the city
Oh, yeah,
intimately.
yeah.
Like, thank you Sandoval, thank you Weehan.
Weehan.
It's really cool.
We have.
Ken also played with a former Lobo a soccer player and Albuquerque High School alumni, Jimmy Schneebeck at Denver University, so he's got a special place in Albuquerque's heart for sure. Jimmy Schneebeck is a real one as far as the boys of Porque go. But like the question of like whether or not we like what are we as an identity in that way, like that's hard for me to say. Like I'm not going to.
That's a big deal, though.
Sure, it's a big deal, and like I'm not going to deny the hype that United has created, and like
Right.
I
Well, and I-
almost saw the opposite response.
I don't want you to take the United aspect, because that was just an example. My example, what I'm really trying to say
Right.
is like, oh, someone got their U-Haul
Right.
stolen.
Are we bad boys? And the
Yeah,
answer
they
is-
shouldn't have came to
Right.
Albuquerque.
Right.
And we
yeah.
shouldn't feel that way.
I agree with that. Albuquerque is not like a bad boys mentality, to be
Yes.
totally frank. If you've ever been here and if you've ever listened to tourists come, so I like working at Marble, I've listened to a lot of tourists talk about their experience here, and they're like, yo, everyone here is so friendly. Like everyone here knows where things are, knows where to tell me where to go. Like
And we were afraid to come here because
because
we
of the
heard
media.
so many stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So Albuquerque is not the bad boy. Is like
No.
if that's the fundamental question.
We really
like,
are a very loving and open
Right.
and
100%.
wonderful
Right.
and diverse
Right, yeah.
city.
I had a Canadian couple. I was down in Founders. Shout out to all my Nuggets and Founders.
Nuggets.
And they were like, we were really afraid to come downtown in Albuquerque because we thought we were going to just get robbed.
Right.
And that's because that's what we portray. And people will portray that. They'll be like, oh, yeah, you don't want to come down to Albuquerque. You're going to fucking get hurt. You're going to jack.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not true at all.
And like I hope people do know that. And like there's a reality anywhere you go about that, and like gun violence and gun possession is an issue everywhere in this country, and like we can talk about that, but like that is not Albuquerque's core, that is not Albuquerque's center, and like that's not us. Like
No.
we are a place of innovation. We are a place that exists beyond all odds. We are a place that is different than the rest, and we are a place that like gets
huge
to
in the film
define
industry.
totally, and like we get to define, and this is super nerdy of me, and I'm a big city nerd. We get to define the future. I believe Albuquerque explicitly gets to define the future of large, mid-sized cities or middle, large-sized cities, and what it means for urbanization in the future. Like, we're seeing this mass urbanization across the world where, like, Shanghai is dealing with, like, 100,000 people a month immigrating to their
Wow.
city, which is bonkers. And you have to say to yourself, like, does a city of 500,000, a metropolitan area of almost 1 million, does it survive in the future?
Yeah.
Or does it wane and depart from, like, what we
Well,
know as civilization?
And one other thing Chris Fortson says, you know, he brought up
Chris.
the crab mentality that Albuquerque has. You don't want to see other people do good.
Yeah, and I hear that deeply, and like this also ties back to what Holly said about like, and I appreciate Holly. Thank you for bringing up the idea of just like, it's not about running again, because I believe that too.
Right.
It's about saying the story behind the run and making sure that the next story succeeds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because for all, and I appreciate the fact that so many people acknowledge that maybe that campaign caused good.
Yeah.
We need the next success,
Yeah.
Right.
and that success isn't me. It doesn't have to be me.
No, it doesn't.
And I really want to like bring up this person in my life that's changed my life numerous times. Her name's Sarah Collins. She came to the University of New Mexico as a freshman, first generation college student on like the top tier scholarship that UNM has to offer. And she was like wide-eyed and breathless about the possibility of the university, about the state, and it was inspiring. As someone who grew up here and like believed about all the things that like couldn't happen here, she was the antithesis. She was like, this is new, this is fresh, this is possible, this is the only place in the world I'd want to be. And she totally changed my life about what it could mean to invest in communities and what it
Sure.
could mean to like see the good in places and to like manifest the good too, like be a part of what you want to be the change. And
Shop
she
local.
totally, yeah, Jesus Christ, shop local.
Yeah.
And she worked for that change and worked for that good all the way through the campaign and did relentlessly tireless work all through UNM. She created a sustainable reclaim in the dorms, which was all about like making sure that students had access to mini fridges, clothing, like microwaves,
Oh, nice.
everything, so that it didn't go to the trash anymore. It just went to students.
It's like so I used to work at Sandia Labs, and Sandia Labs has a thing called reapplication,
Right.
and it is that.
Yeah.
And like people think, oh well, there's all this money being spent with the government. Well, someone somewhere, some way, created this thing at Sandia where like if you don't want your computer anymore, it goes to reapplication, and it sits there, and it's someone else or your chair or your monitor
Right.
or your whatever, and it's that same thing, and that's amazing.
Totally.
And you come in. And you're like, well, I need a chair for my office. You go walk in and go, oh, there's all the chairs. And you just go over and you go,
Right.
all right, I want this one. And
Right.
then you go, okay. And then boom.
And that's the mindset. It's literally like if you think of any system you participate in. It's where you live. It's where you work. What do you see? When we were living in the dorms together, Sarah and I, like, we saw that people threw away all this stuff every single year.
Yeah, what do they call it? There's actually a name for it. Like when they, the kids,
Waste.
No.
True.
No. Well,
Yes.
it is. But like a lot of the local communities in like a lot of college towns, it's like one of their favorite days. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like the college kids will move out and then they'll just go and like
Right.
dig shit out of the trash.
Right. And so we call it the reclaim now because we like everyone donates that stuff and then we host it at the beginning of the fall semester.
Yeah.
Where people can just show up and like take what they need, so that
Yes.
they don't have to buy it every year.
Awesome.
And then Sarah, like, to her credit,
Yeah, it's pretty smart.
she's so smart. She studied sign language interpreting. She's incredible.
Aw. My
she,
grandma Steph, love that.
What? Oh, rad! Such a cool culture, honestly.
It is.
One of the coolest things she did is she also helped make sure the tap room on UNM's campus succeeded.
Oh, I heard about this. So is that open now?
It's totally open.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Never
buy
been.
great local beer there.
Nice.
There's cool curriculum in there too, where you can take like beer classes and stuff on the science of beer. And somehow through her dedication, like, saw this project through of like seeing a need in the community, seeing a commonality in the community, seeing a strength of the community.
A need the
made it
community
happen.
didn't know they needed.
Right. And like, it's a great use of space. It's a great idea of capitalizing on an identity we've crafted through sincere work in the community. And like, I'm all about local representation and people being the change they need to see and suggesting the solutions they believe in based off their lived experience. But I will forever thank Sarah deeply for being a fresh set of eyes that showed me a world that I was so unbelievably blind to. And she's incredible, and I hope she changes New Mexico 1,000 times over.
Well, I think that's amazing, and I like to hear those stories, and those are the stories you want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the stories that are like just ultra negative, and my U-Haul got stolen and my band equipment got stolen. So it's good to hear all those things. Did you want to? You sound like
There are tons of people who move to New Mexico and fall in love with it.
Hakeem. Thank you, Hakeem
There's
Bellamy.
a ton,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There's a ton of people who come here to visit, even from other countries. When my parents were living in Germany, you would not believe how crazy Germans would get. Oh, you're from New Mexico? I've heard about it. I've
Right.
been to Balloon Fiesta. I love it. And the other thing is they love tumbleweeds. Germans love tumbleweeds
Yeah, I
because
think it's
they
weird.
don't have it.
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
have that. They don't have Western culture. They don't have, whatever.
Yeah.
So I love hearing a story where somebody moved here and they fell so in love with New
Yes.
Mexico and they're making an impact.
make an impact, make a change.
That's what I want to see more about. Like, stop complaining about Albuquerque. Stop being, don't stop complaining about legitimate complaints.
Be critical, right? Like, in the same way we're
Yeah.
critical of our family and of our friends and the people we love, but like, don't stop being on their team.
Right.
Like,
and
we're
don't
all on
stop-
Albuquerque's team.
Don't stop forgiving Albuquerque and don't stop loving Albuquerque.
100%.
Stop perpetuating negative stereotypes.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
and not
fucking
just
terrible.
of Albuquerque,
Right.
of like all things.
Right, and
Stop.
also address colonialism more explicitly in everything
Yes.
you do. But,
And-
like, that's a different
oh,
conversation.
yes.
Gus did it.
Sorry,
I
like
love
what? That's like one of the
Gus.
things we do all the time. That's dumb. So like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Shouts out.
So I want to say
Gus,
thank you
you're
for
my new
coming.
best friend.
I want to
Sorry.
say thank you for coming on the show.
Okay, actually, can I ask one
Oh, shit.
last question? The best breakfast burrito in
Oh
Albuquerque.
God.
What?
Good one.
The best breakfast burrito in Albuquerque.
Like as in the radio that plays while I'm at breakfast?
No, best breakfast burrito. Billy's
Oh,
drunk already.
breakfast burrito. I think you said radio. Previously, the answer would easily be Dos Hermanos, but they went out of business,
Right.
and there has still not been a breakfast burrito that comes close to touching that brick of glory.
Yeah, it was so good.
God, that's a really hard question. I ate so many Golden Pride burritos through
Thank you.
college that like I have to
they're
just
good.
stay loyal, dude. Like
They're so good.
number 1, number 8, number 9, dude. Days when I was in a pinch and I didn't have the money. Number 5, like I respect that whole goddamn menu.
I had a number.
And,
I
like,
had number 10 and number 8.
Dude, I'm gonna be real with you. Rhinosex till I die. They also support the presidential scholarship at UNM, which I
Yes.
participated in, and like I'm here for Golden Pride until the end of time.
I mean, look.
Also,
I
their
mean,
carne burritos.
you
They're
don't know what's
ultimate.
going on right here,
it's a green screen to me.
but it's 10 drink
10 drink.
barbecue chicken and ribs, and it's the Golden Pride logo.
It
is what it is.
I appreciate you, Golden Pride. You're the drive-through of my dreams.
It's Golden Pride.
And they're so quick.
I drove through the Golden I drove through the Golden Pride over here the other day, and the guy recognized me. He's like, "You're the 10 drink minimum guy." I was like, "Yes, I am."
Give me bacon.
Give me the bacon.
They
And
always
so
recognize
just
Mitch.
dumbing down to your constituents, red or green.
My constituents are smarter than me, so there's nothing to dumb down, asshole. Obviously, fucking green.
Obviously.
Oof.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You
you.
know what's cute about Golden Pride up in the Northeast Heights? And I'm just going to say
Tell
this.
me more.
Christopher, I know that you get recognized at Golden Pride. However, Mitchell, my dog,
Shouts out
gets
Mitchell.
recognized at
Oh.
Golden Pride, and they always give him bacon.
Hey, shouts out Dale Roberts for telling me that Golden Pride offers salsa picante and that it is actually a dream maker on your Golden
Oh.
Pride morning
I
breakfast
need to try that.
burrito.
I'm gonna try
So,
that. I'm gonna try that.
salsa picante for life. Dale Roberts, you're the boy. I love you
Nice.
to death.
We've been so
It's your boy.
involved in your philosophy. You're like pretty much plans for the fucking world now. We didn't even ask you like, what's your favorite salsa?
Whoa. Gus is all edgy. I want to thank Gus for coming on the show. I mean, we've gone way over
Way
time,
over.
which is fine.
Sorry.
No,
Oh, no, we
no.
love it.
There's a reason why we went way over time. Shout out. You guys want to promote your shit real quick?
I'm done. You heard that last episode.
Just come to my open mic tomorrow at Inside Out.
There
Please
you go.
look up QWorks / actually called Quirks. QWorks.
Yeah. And man, you don't have to run for office again. I mean, I think it'd be amazing, but just and I don't think I have to tell you this. Stay relevant in the community.
Please
You
do.
know? I think that Albuquerque needs Gus Pedrotty.
Please keep
Gus
inspiring
Pedrotty, your
people.
only hope.
Yeah. And with that, we
We
are
are
10 drink minimum.